How's everyone doing out there? Yeah, it is an early ass stream. True, true. Yeah, I'm streaming early today. I have a date night tonight, so we gotta get the early stream in. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. There's like an argument that I've been thinking about. Okay, let me go ahead and share this. Share the notepad. Oh, okay. So, I don't know if this is gonna be formally valid. I'll just I'll like prattle out some thoughts. Okay. Uh, if God exists and is all powerful, then God causes things by something internal to himself, necessitating the effect. Um, if God exists alone, then nothing internal to him is necessitating anything external to him. If God exists with creation, then something internal to him is necessitating something external to him. I guess I think from 2 and 3, it follows that if God goes from existing alone to existing with creation, then something internal to him changes. This is probably the contentious premise. Depending on the model of God, of course. I wonder if there's anything else to add here. Premise 1 is just kinda hanging out there. I guess premise 1, I'd probably wanna say if God exists alone and premise 1 is true, and if God exists with creation and premise 1 is true. So, I mean, God causes things by necessitating them if he exists, of course, which means that and of course, if God is necessitating things external to himself, then the thing doing the necessitation is something internal to him because he's the cause of it. So he's going to have something that necessitates external things, some state of affairs, but not at different states of affairs. I think like the only response that I could think of is maybe you want to say like God eternally necessitates like specific things happen at specific times, but then I think that bites into critiques about like I think that basically commits you to like a specific model of time under which there are like further problems for God. Um, like the sooner objection, God could have created sooner. There's no reason why he didn't, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, if you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. And with that, we'll go to the very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm 19.
Yep, and what religion?
I'll play devil's advocate for Orthodox Christian.
Are you like actually an atheist? Because I don't know, people get pretty upset when I debate devil's advocates.
I'm an agnostic.
Okay. I think the problem is that I have like real theists and sorry, bud. Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Yeah, how old are you?
Good. 22.
Yep, and what religion?
Islam.
Okay, what makes you think God exists?
Yeah, so because I keep out the option that the world came by chance. That's why I conclude, just like everything else that has a design and has information behind it, has a creator.
Mhm.
So that would be a logic conclusion to believe in God.
Okay, so let me make sure. One sec. Let me pull up my little notepad. So your argument is that, the world didn't just come from chance, and because the world didn't just come from chance, that means that God exists.
So if you that's a bad representation. If I'm gonna I said
I must have missed the
the-
argument then. Could you give it again?
yes. So I said, since I exclude the option of this informationful, designful world, Earth, I exclude that it came by chance.
How does
I
that differ from what I
conclude that
said?
wait, I didn't finish. I conclude that it has a designer because everything with a design around us has a designer.
That is, quite literally what I said, that your argument is
Can you
that the
name
world didn't
something with
come
no
from
design?
chance, therefore God must have did it. And then
Yes.
you said that's a bad representation of your argument. And then you said,
Yes.
all this world, it didn't come from chance, therefore God
Yeah.
must have done it. I mean, it seems like you just said the exact thing that I said, but that's
So-
totally fine.
So what I wish you could do is show me something with design that doesn't have a designer.
Why would I think that the world has design?
Oh, so you don't think a world has purposes, like the wind or the rain or water or fruits, or
Nope. I don't think
all
it
these
has.
type of things?
No, certainly not. I don't think it has like a purpose. I think that the reason why a lot of these things fit into our lives or fit into the ecosystem more broadly is because the ecosystem evolved into this environment with the winds and the rain. Fruits evolved, and they were able to survive
Right.
and reproduce by spreading their seeds through the fruits
Right.
themselves.
Right. Is the ecosystem eternal?
No.
Okay. So since it's not eternal, your argument's irrelevant.
No,
So what's eternal?
because things can come into existence without being designed.
So I will ask you again. Can you name one thing that doesn't have a design?
Yeah, like rocks.
Which has a design, but no designer.
I don't grant that the world has a design you're not tracking.
So you
What
don't
you're
think
trying
the
to
world has a,
demonstrate is that the
you don't
world
think
has
the world
a
has a
design.
design?
Whoa, let's just calm down there.
You
No,
don't-
I
you
don't
don't
think
think
that the
the
world
world
has
has
a design. I
information?
think certainly there are some things that have a design, right? Like a car has a design, a plane has a design, but
That's embarrassing. So
oh,
you think a
I don't
car
feel
is more
embarrassed. It
complex?
kind of feels like you're not capable of tracking the argument.
Do you think a car has more design and information than the Earth and the universe?
What do you mean by information?
So
By information, do you just
it's
mean like there are
easier to
inputs that spit
so it's
outputs, or do you
easier
mean
to
like something that somebody
You're
coded?
interrupting
Oh,
me.
he's
I didn't finish.
grandstanding. What you did was ask a question. Was that a rhetorical question?
No. Yes, it was rhetorical.
Oh, okay, sure. I mean, if you
want
ask
to
a
make a
question,
point.
I'm going to answer it. I'm not sure if you're aware of how
Well,
like
you have to let me
conversations
finish.
work. You should calm down. You
So-
sound upset.
No. So you just said a car has a design, whatever,
Mhm.
blah blah blah. You're basically saying a car is easier to study than the Earth, correct?
I don't think I said that.
Well, you said the car it has a design, but the
Depends
Earth
on the part of
doesn't,
the
right?
Earth. There are certainly parts of the Earth that are easier to study than a car, and there are certainly parts of the Earth that are harder to study than a car.
Yeah. So what do you study? Is it information?
You study like facts usually.
Yeah. Are facts out of what though?
It depends what you
those
mean by
facts
information.
conclude?
There's kind of like two senses of information. So you can mean information to just be something like, inputs that produce outputs. Or alternatively, you could mean information to mean something like, a mind intentionally added like certain information to this.
So-
In some sense,
Yeah.
you might want to say that like the rings of a tree are information as to how many cycles of building out new bark it's gone
Right,
through,
so-
its age. It has information, and yet there isn't like a mind that's causing it to do
I
that.
understand. So I will make it clear. So
Please.
I agree with the two types of information. When people they did studies on the Earth, they looked at the information on the Earth, and then they wrote information to conclude how the Earth works. So those are the
But
two
that would be
We're
equivocating on
go
the word
we're
information.
going
You'd
to
be
the
using it
first
in
type.
one sense in the
I
first
didn't
sense and in the
finish. I
second
didn't
sense in
finish.
the second
Wait,
sense.
wait.
If your
I
debate
didn't
strategy
finish.
relies
I
on
know you're mad. I
equivocating on
didn't finish.
terms and then swaying
I
out
didn't
when you get
finish.
called out on equivocating on
Can you
terms,
can you
then
not
every single
interrupt me,
time you
friend?
equivocate, I'm just simply going to point out
You,
that that's what you're
you're
doing,
not
and then
letting
we'll
me
have to
finish.
proceed from there. Just calm down. There's really no reason to be getting upset.
Why are you interrupting me?
You sound really upset. Just calm down. You equivocated, which is why I
So
interrupted,
why are you interrupting me?
because you're equivocating.
I would like to speak.
I understand that you'd like to speak.
You
I'd like for you to not
interrupted me.
equivocate.
You interrupted me,
Okay.
and
Just stop swaying
you're
out. It's really
acting
going to be
erratic.
okay. Do you
Yes.
think between
So
the two of us, like you
the
sound like you're having like
first,
a
so
meltdown?
when I
Like
said the
seriously, take a
first
deep breath.
information we're
It's not
talking
that big of a
about
deal, dude.
is
Just
when
calm
they
down.
was trying to establish study to the Earth. When they were trying to establish this, how the Earth works, they took their resources and their calculations from what? The Earth. So they actually collected information of the Earth to actually give the information of the studies. So those are the two types of information, and it requires both. So can you
Why would I
answer?
think that the first type requires a mind?
Why would what?
Why would I think that the first type requires a mind? Like I think that you can have things that produce inputs or things that are inputs that produce outputs. I think that you can have like that sort of information without a mind.
Oh, so you just think that the world, it just came by chance, and the information in it has no author.
Oh boy.
So the information of the world has no designer.
Some of the information does, but I
Who?
don't think like the natural information does. No.
So what's eternal then?
I think that the universe is eternal.
So what was the beginning of the universe?
If it's
Didn't have
eternal,
a
then there
beginning?
is no beginning.
So can you now give a definition of eternal
Yeah, eternal means existing without beginning and without end.
without ending, right?
Yeah.
So you don't believe in the Big Bang then?
I know, I do believe in the Big Bang. It's just that the Big Bang doesn't say anything about there being a beginning to the universe. I'm happy
So
to
there
pull up
was
a study on
always
that matter. So if you
so
look to this, one sec,
the
let me
Big Bang
find.
never happened. It's eternal.
Okay, so according to the majority of physicists, this is 68%. The Big Bang is a theory that says that the universe evolved from a hot, dense state that says nothing about whether there was an absolute beginning of time or not. So according to the majority of
Right.
physicists, which you're rejecting, the Big Bang says nothing about being the beginning of the universe or the beginning of time.
Right. So before the Big
Right,
Bang, what
so your
existed?
point got shredded. So
So
do you
what
acknowledge,
existed
wait, before
before
we
Big
pivot
Bang?
away, can
I
you
didn't
just
acknowledge.
acknowledge
I
that
didn't
the Big
acknowledge
Bang
anything.
doesn't claim to be the beginning?
No.
No? Do you want to
Yeah,
talk
because
more about the study then?
yes,
Oh,
yes, yes.
okay. Do you reject
Yes.
this
So
study? Like, do you
if
reject
you
the
claim
68% of
yes,
physicists
yes,
that...
yes, 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 yes,
Okay,
yes, yes,
okay,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
sure.
yes.
So then you do reject like
Let me speak.
the
Let me
majority
speak.
opinion among scientists. Okay.
So
You know, I mean, if
so
believing in your religion
if the
revolves
Earth
around
is
rejecting
eternal,
science, well, I just think we have good evidence to think that the Big Bang
right.
happened, you
So
know.
you said the Earth is eternal, and
I
the Big
didn't say
Bang,
that
it
the
is
Earth, I said that the universe is eternal.
the world
The
or the universe.
universe.
Sure,
Yeah.
the universe is eternal, and then so for the Big Bang to happen, Big Bangs by definition, it literally meant it was nothing, and then it
No.
became something. Yes.
What did I just read on the survey? Can you summarize back, or were you not listening? Like, what's the
so
majority
if you believe
opinion
it's
among
eternal,
physicists with
so
respect to
you
the Big
believe
Bang?
it's eternal and
I'm
nothing
gonna
at
do
the
a bit of
same
a
time?
pop quiz here, you know, just like a
Do you
quick
believe it's
knowledge check.
eternal and
I'm
nothing
happy
at the
to
same time?
re-educate you on this if you weren't listening.
How is
but
it eternal
I showed
and
you a
nothing
study
at the
just
same
now
time?
that revealed the majority opinion among physicists. Do you recall what the majority
Yes.
of physicists believed about the Big Bang? Do you need a reminder?
Yeah, you literally said that they don't think there is actual time in the universe. And they
No,
believe
the
that
opposite. They're saying that the Big Bang says nothing about being the beginning of time.
yes, right. So
Right,
Big
the
Bang,
opposite of what you just said,
so
right.
the Big Bang itself means literally something from nothing. Then
You said
if
right.
you say it's
Oh my,
eternal,
he didn't even listen the second time. That's incredible.
No.
What's
I'm
the
not
majority
ranking.
opinion
Listen,
among physicists with respect to the Big Bang?
I'm talking to you, not physicists. I'm
Whoa,
talking
but
to
you're
you.
citing the Big Bang.
Why are you
The people
running?
that posit the Big Bang are physicists. You know, they're going to know
So
best as to what the theory actually states.
when the Big Bang happens, does something exist?
Yep.
Look at him. Look, he can't answer. Look at him.
I just
When
said
the Big
yes.
Bang happens,
You're like
does
hallucinating.
yes.
He's like having
All
like
right.
auditory
What
hallucinations. Holy shit.
What
Oh my
exists?
gosh. It's like somebody
What
came in there
exists?
and like cupped his ears. Or maybe he just did it
What
himself. The debate is too hard to cope with.
what existed
Holy shit,
before
dude.
the Big Bang?
Yeah, the universe.
What's the universe
The universe
before the
is the
Big
set
Bang?
of fields and the energy.
So then the Big Bang is basically something that already existed, and it's not
No, it was
nothing
like
that
a new event.
became. But the
It
universe already
operated on
existed,
things
right?
that already existed, yeah. But it
But the
itself was a
universe,
new event.
but the
You know, when I
universe
have
already
when I have
existed,
like a 25th birthday, that's a new event for me. But the 25th birthday
But
operates
so
on a
when the
thing
big
that
so
already
make the
exists,
statement
namely
when
myself.
the big make the statement
Whoa, this
when
dude
the
is like
Big Bang
super
happened,
upset. Holy
the
shit.
universe
Is this what
existed.
Islam does to the brain? Like you have auditory
Can you
hallucinations,
say?
you're incapable of
All
engaging
right.
in good faith. Like you get
Can
completely demolished in a debate against somebody who's even like halfway competent.
can you say the universe existed when the Big Bang happened? Just say
Yeah.
that.
Yep. The universe existed when the Big Bang happened. Yeah.
All right. Now I will show you. I will take a picture. I will show you studies that disagree with you from plenty
Yep.
of physicists.
And I will show you the majority of physicists, you know, a survey, which is going to be far superior to any of your anecdotes that demonstrate that actually the majority of physicists believe that the Big Bang says nothing about being the beginning of the universe. You should really try to track. I wonder if he's going to be able to produce 55 studies to outweigh the 55 physicists that claim that it says nothing about being the beginning of time. Anyway, make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your study?
What are you talking about? You don't even study, bro. You don't know nothing. You think
Oh
everything's in
gosh.
the chat.
He's too stupid to know that he covered up his microphone.
Oh yeah. So what I wanted to say is, I don't have enough followers to show on the screen. So can you show or look up on Google? Look this up.
Oh, I thought you said it was a study. Do you have a study? In fact, actually,
Yeah,
you're
when
probably going to need
yeah.
55 studies to outweigh the
So what's the
55
source of the study?
physicists. Yeah,
What's the source?
yeah, happy to get it to you. This is Phil Halper Cosmology Survey. Okay, sure. So the source that I'm citing, Copenhagen Survey on Black Holes and Fundamental Physics. This is done by Alice Chen, Phil Halper,
Well,
and Nayesh Afshorty.
Shorty, what? Anyway,
Afshorty.
Shorty, listen, bro. So who are
Damn,
these?
do you think that's a good rhetorical look after the walloping that you've taken in this debate so far?
No. So when it comes to this, when they say the universe already existed, then time
That's
isn't
also, to
real.
be clear, that's not what they're claiming. You haven't paid attention. I've read it like 3 or 4 times, then I've explained it like an additional like 3 or 4 times, and you still aren't tracking. They're saying that the Big Bang does not make a claim about being the beginning or not being the beginning. All the
So
Big
you
Bang
don't know?
claims is that the universe was in a hot, dense state, and then it rapidly expanded. That's all it claims.
So the eternal universe actually shifted its form.
Yeah. Yeah, eternal just means without beginning. Something can be without
Yo,
beginning
that's
and then
kinda
just always
alright.
changing. Is
Right,
that supposed to be
right.
like a dunk?
So if the universe is eternal, then something like time doesn't exist, correct?
No, it does. Time can just be eternal. Time, in fact, is a part of the universe. It's called space-time.
Yeah. So you think that the universe is time, basically,
Time
right?
is a part of the universe.
Time is a part of the universe,
Correct.
but the universe doesn't have a time because it's eternal.
The universe itself does not come into existence, if that's what you're
So
asking.
how is something
There are
that
different
doesn't
states of
have
the universe
time
at different times,
be
if that's
part
what
of
you're
time?
asking.
So the universe doesn't have time But
The
a
universe
part
does
of the
have
universe
time.
is
There's
time.
time within the universe.
But how? But it doesn't
He's like
itself.
short
Does it
circuiting. Holy
consist?
shit.
The universe itself, does it consist of time?
Yeah,
How? It's eternal.
because the fundamental substance of the universe is space-time.
No, I'm not talking about the substance.
I
You said
am. You're asking,
but
well,
but
how
I'm
can the
not.
universe have time in
I'm
it?
not. So
And
let
I'm
me
explaining
clarify.
to you that the fundamental substance is space-time, as is indicated by things like general relativity.
So listen, you said that the universe is eternal, and you said
Yes.
that time consists in the universe, but you cannot measure the time with the on the universe. So how does that work?
Wait, sorry. You don't think you can measure time in the universe?
No, because it's eternal. So you cannot.
Brutal.
Yeah, but no. When you say something is eternal, it doesn't exist out of time. I'm not talking about this. I know you're a little foolish. When you talk about something eternal, you cannot add time to it because it's eternal.
Of course you
Doesn't have a
can. It can just
beginning
be
nor
eternally
an
in
ending.
time. My definition of
What?
eternal, just for your reference again, is something that exists without beginning. Something can exist without beginning and then also be in time insofar as something could have just always existed within time. So for example, like energy
Yeah,
is
so I'm not
eternal, but
talking
it's
about
also
that.
always in time, so it's always shifting.
Yeah, so what I'm talking about, listen, so when you say time, right? Time, you claim that time does not have a beginning, correct? Since
Yeah,
the universe
that is
is
what I
eternal.
claim.
All right. So if time doesn't have a beginning nor an ending, correct? So
Mhm.
the universe, can we actually recount how long the universe exists? No, because
Nope.
it's eternal. So
Yep.
time cannot apply to the eternal universe. So you
It just
say
existed
we cannot.
eternally. Time was always there. There isn't like some number that
No,
corresponds to the amount of time that's passed. That would
you
be a category
you
error.
you
It
just
just goes
interrupted
back
me
infinitely.
without letting me land.
If you
You
wanted to do,
interrupted
I'm
me
waiting
for
for
the
it to
fourth time.
land, and it's like fucking 9/11,
Yeah,
dude.
so I was talking to what?
I'm waiting for
9/11,
the
you said?
plane to land, and it's like fucking 9/11.
Yeah, I know you're getting frustrated. I'm not really
Oh,
with your
geez, that really got under his skin.
No, of course, because we didn't do it. But that's another topic. So when it comes to this,
Oh,
right?
well, I say that to a lot of people.
So
It's not because you're Muslim. But I'll give you the
I don't
argument for
know.
why time always existed. So
Wait,
premise
you
1, change
interrupted me,
always
and I haven't
existed.
finished my argument.
Premise 2,
I haven't
if
finished my
change always
argument. I
existed,
haven't finished my
and
argument.
time
You
always
interrupted me. I
existed, you're
haven't
short
finished my
circuiting.
argument.
I haven't finished
I
my
haven't
argument. I
finished my
haven't finished my
argument.
argument.
I haven't
Blah,
finished my
blah, blah.
argument.
No one cares.
He's
Respond.
interrupting me.
If change always existed, then time always existed.
Look at him,
Therefore,
guys. Look
time
at him.
always existed. Which premise here would
Look
you
at him.
reject?
He's
Premise 1 or
literally
premise 2?
interrupting me.
Premise 1 or premise 2?
You're interrupting me.
Premise 1 or premise 2?
You don't
Premise 1 or
dictate
premise 2?
and interrupt me and dictate the
Premise
new
1 or premise
conversation.
2?
Even your comments are
Premise
saying
1
let
or
him
premise
speak,
2?
bro.
He has to cope with the
You
comments because he
interrupted me.
can't cope with the argument.
Let me
Do you
land my
reject
plane,
premise
bro.
1 or premise 2?
Let me land my plane.
Premise 1 or premise 2?
Let me land my
Premise
plane.
1 or premise 2?
You
Do
interrupted
you
me.
reject premise 1 or do you reject premise 2?
Why
Because you're
are
going to
you
pivot away
making a
like
new
you've pivoted
argument?
so many times already. You know, you pivoted from information after you got blown the fuck out on that. Then you pivoted to the eternality of the universe, and now you're getting blown the fuck out on that. Before
Listen,
you pivot again, let me just demonstrate to you that the universe has always existed by demonstrating to you that time has always existed.
yeah, so obviously you have feminine emotions since you don't let me speak. You're
Yeah,
a
I
man,
do.
but you act like a girl, bro.
Yeah,
You
I
act
do.
like a
I
woman.
know. I
You
know.
are not,
It's a source of great shame for
man
me.
up.
Do you reject premise 1 or premise 2?
Man up. You're painting your nails. You're
Gosh,
interrupting guests.
that's really devastating to me.
Can
Oh,
I land
that
my
makes me
plane?
really sad. You know, why is
Can I land
painting
my
your
plane?
nails a girl thing?
Because yeah, that's another argument. But
Shit, he brought it up, but then he got spawn killed on it. Holy shit. He spawned into the painting your nails discussion. He got instantly fucking obliterated on it. Yeah, move past quick. Hopefully nobody notices that you got completely torn in half like instantly on that. Yeah.
Bro.
He bit off
So
way
yeah,
more than he can chew.
You come on and you sound like
Do you reject
like
premise 1 or
zesty.
premise 2?
You wear
You
pink.
sound like a
and
Christian.
you have
You're
nail
unable to
polish.
actually engage with the argument.
You sound zesty. You wear pink and you
Yeah,
have
I
nail
am a bit
polish.
zesty,
And
you
then
know.
you say,
Why is
how
wearing
is
pink a
that for
zesty thing to
women?
do?
Bro, are you stupid, bro?
Whoa, just calm down there. No need to get upset.
This guy said, "How is
This
that for a
guy's like
woman, bro?
crashing the
You
fuck out. Yeah,
you
explain.
wear pink,
Yeah,
you
why is
wear nail
pink a
polish,
feminine thing
and
to
you act
wear?
zesty, bro.
Yeah,
That's
why is that
enough
zesty?
for me to say you act like a
Why is that
girl,
zesty?
bro. Why? Bro, look at your voice
He's not
and you
able to
ask me.
tell us. Holy shit. He literally can't explain why that's a
Yeah,
zesty thing to
because you're
do.
interrupting. You're interrupting me
Dan, well,
4
oh yeah,
times.
sure. Then just go ahead and explain it. Yeah, why is wearing pink a
Yeah.
zesty thing to
So
do?
you said that time cannot be used to measure the
Yeah,
earth.
yo, that's like 2 pivots. He's running
So you
not just from explaining why it's zesty to wear pink, he's also fucking running from the argument that time
so
always existed.
yeah. So
That's like
so
devastating. Holy
you're
shit.
you're so you know premise 1.
Mhm.
Time cannot measure the universe duration. 2. Time is part of the universe.
So you reject premise
Is
1
that
or
a
premise 2?
contradiction? Yes or no?
You reject premise 1 or premise 2 here. Otherwise, you
Look
can
at
reject
him.
like the inference
Look
rule.
at him. He won't do my premise. Look at him.
Sure. Do you want
He
me to
won't do
type
my
up your
premise.
argument? Yeah, let's see this guy's
Yeah,
argument.
this is 2 arguments.
Yep.
Time, you cannot measure universe duration with time, and then time is a part of the universe.
And then what's the conclusion?
Is this a contradiction or no?
No.
All right. So can
Wait,
you
sorry, is there like a
now?
conclusion to that or?
Yes. So
Yeah, what's the
this is a
conclusion?
yeah. The conclusion is that time is not eternal.
Time is not eternal. Okay, what inference rule does this argument follow?
Yeah. So
I have
can you measure?
I have
can you,
the inference rule as being A, B, therefore C. Is that correct?
I don't know about inference rule, bro.
Yeah,
I
I
don't care
grant that
about
you
those
don't know
stuff.
about inference rules. You gave
Sure, I
an
don't know
invalid
about it.
argument. A way that you might determine that the argument here is invalid is because the word eternal does not appear a single time in any of the premises. The
You
conclusion
said the universe
is
is eternal.
nowhere within the premises. It's not a part of the conditional. It's not like either it's eternal or it's not eternal. Well, it's eternal, therefore, you know, it's not eternal, therefore it's not eternal, or something to that sort.
You
So-
said time is part of the universe, but you cannot measure the universe with time. Therefore, it's a contradiction.
Why? Why is that a
It's
contradiction?
logical. Can you measure the universe with time? Yes or no?
Yeah.
You just said it's eternal.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm out, man. I'm out, man.
I accept
Have
your
a
surrender,
nice
by the
day.
way. Yo, watch me measure time.
I'm not talking about that. It's obvious I'm not talking about that, you
Dan,
idiot,
then you
bro.
should clarify
Look
what
at
you're
them.
saying then.
I said the duration of the universe existence. Can you measure it with time?
The
Yes or no?
duration of the universe existing?
Yes.
There
yes.
isn't going to be a number that's associated there,
Exactly.
insofar as infinity is not a number. But you can
Exactly.
still
So
measure
then-
moments. Between
so
any 2
then
moments,
time-
there's going
so
to be a
then the
finite
answer
amount of
is
time
no.
that's elapsed.
So then the answer is no. You cannot measure
Oh, that
the
doesn't
universe
follow.
duration.
You can
Good.
still measure the universe with time.
Can you measure the duration of the universe
Wait,
existence?
sure. Wait, are
Yes
we
or no?
pivoting away from your argument? Your dog shit
Look at him,
argument
he's
that fell
running.
apart instantly?
Look at
He
him,
wanted
he's
me to
running.
put his premises on so he could avoid my
He's
premises.
literally running.
And
bro.
then, you know, he wants to run from his own premises. He's
you
literally like
measure-
sprinting away from his own
I
argument.
will ask you again.
Imagine losing so badly on your own argument that you don't even want to defend it anymore.
So, brother, can
Yeah.
you
Okay.
can you know how old the universe existed?
That's a category error.
Exactly, because it's eternal, correct?
Yeah. So it
So
would be a category
can
error to
you
say that
measure
the universe has existed for a certain
can you
amount of
measure
time,
eter-
insofar as infinity is
I'm
not
not
an
finished.
amount.
Can
You could
measure?
quantify like the cardinality. You could describe the cardinality as being infinite, like the cardinality of moments.
Can you measure the eternity of the universe? Yes or
Yeah,
no?
there's an infinite cardinality of moments. Yes.
Can you measure it with time? Yes or no?
Yes, there is an infinite
All right,
cardinality with
all right.
moments.
So what's
moments.
so how many minutes or hours or days ago was the origin of the universe?
Yeah, that's a category error. But if what you're
So you
asking
cannot
is what's
measure
the
it.
cardinality
So
of
you cannot
moments, well,
measure
the
it with
answer to
time,
that is
correct?
infinite.
So you
No, you
cannot
can.
measure it
It's
with time,
infinite.
correct?
If you put all the moments that have ever existed
Right.
in a set, it would have
Right.
an infinite cardinality.
Right. Can you measure infinity with time? Yes or no?
Yeah, sure.
Look at this idiot, bro. So what? So measure it with time then.
Wait, what's the contradiction?
Measure it with time.
What's oh fuck? He has no contradiction. He was hoping that
So
that would go
yeah,
somewhere.
yeah. So the contradiction is that
Yep. Oh
you
wait, sure.
said
Let's write down. Gosh, I love it when like 30 IQ Neanderthals think that they're going to present a contradiction. Yeah, go for it. What is it? We got P and not
Yes.
P. Yeah, let's see it.
what's P and not P? I don't know. What,
Yeah, he
what's
has
P
no
and not
fucking idea. Yeah, what's the
Yeah, so-
contradiction?
Yeah. So the first one is you said the universe is eternal,
Yeah.
and we cannot measure eternity with time.
Why can't we?
So
Also,
therefore,
to be
time
clear,
is not,
this is not a contradiction.
so therefore,
So
therefore,
a
time is not-
contradiction, wait, to be clear, so a contradiction would be, I'll help you out. There's like one of two contradictions that, you might want to do. So
Yo, can you
the
finish my
universe
premise, you
is
fucking
eternal
idiot?
and the universe
No,
is
no, no,
not.
no,
Whoa,
no.
just calm down there. There's no
You-
need to get
you-
upset.
yo,
I'm actually trying to
yo,
help you
you
out
just
here. I'm trying to
interrupted me,
help
you
this make a
listen,
bit more
I know
sense.
you're
There's
gay,
no
but
need
you
to
don't
be
have to
crashing
interrupt me, you
out.
gay boy.
If I'm
Gay
gay, then
boy,
you're gay too
don't
because you
interrupt
got
me,
your
bro.
fucking
Let me
back
finish
blown
my
out.
premise.
I understand how you might come away with the impression that I'm gay the way that I've been rhetorically fucking you this entire time.
So let me finish.
You're
and
like
don't
face
interrupt me.
down, ass up, taking my rhetorical
So,
back shots.
so-
If I'm gay,
so
you're gay.
can
Happy
you-
Pride,
can
friend.
Can you remove your parts to it, and can you put the third, and in the
So-
third say, so therefore time cannot
So
be
to be clear,
part
these
of
are like the
universe.
two contradictions
No,
that
no,
you might
no,
want to go
you
for.
added.
Maybe you want to
You
say
added.
that the universe is eternal
You-
and that the universe is not eternal. Alternatively, maybe you want to say that we can measure eternity with time and that we
You
cannot
added
measure
to it.
eternity with time. Either
You
of these would
added
be
to it.
contradictions. So which of
So
these two would you like to go for?
Can you remove your parts which you added, and can you put
Which ones?
as a C? Can you put conclusion, and then time cannot be part of universe? Can you do that? So
Sure. And then
go to C. Time cannot be part of universe.
yeah, okay. And what inference rule does this follow?
Yes. So
Yes, it
read
follows
this and
the
give an
yes
answer.
inference rule.
Give an
Okay,
answer.
cool.
Answer me.
Okay. Do you
Write
think that
the
this is a
answer.
valid argument?
Write the no. Tell me the answer.
Why would I think that this is a valid argument? The conclusion just
Yeah.
doesn't follow.
Is
The
or
way that you
is
can tell that the
so-
conclusion doesn't follow is based on the way that the conclusion appears nowhere in the premises. If you want an example of a valid argument, my argument up here is a valid argument. The conclusion that time always existed does appear in the premises. It appears right here. It's saying change
So-
always existed. If change always existed, then time always existed. Therefore, time always existed.
You have just changed the topic. Can you address my topic?
I'm trying to help you understand like basic
Address my
logic,
topic.
to be honest. I'm a
Address
bit
my
worried.
topic. Address
I'm a
my
bit
topic.
worried for your
Address my topic.
capacity
Address
of
my
like,
topic. Address
whoa,
my
I
topic.
already don't
Address
trust your
my topic.
topic. You've given like two invalid
You're scared.
arguments
Look
so
at him
far.
running.
Yeah,
He
I
ran.
am terrified of invalid arguments. I stay up at night shaking, quaking, quivering, thinking about the fact that there are people as stupid as you.
But that sounded kind of gay, bro. Quivering
Yeah,
at
yeah, it
night.
was gay.
I don't
You're
know.
on my mind constantly.
Yeah, that's disgusting, bro. Go fix your
Oh.
hairline.
No, I won't.
Looking like a. Can you address my shit or no?
Yeah, the counter argument here is that your argument is invalid. It doesn't
No,
follow a valid
address it.
inference rule.
Why is it invalid? Why?
Yeah, insofar as the conclusion doesn't appear in any of the premises, the conclusion doesn't follow from the premises.
Yes. So can you address 1 and 2?
It's an invalid argument. Even if 1 and 2 were true, the conclusion wouldn't follow.
Why?
Insofar as the conclusion appears nowhere in the premises, it's an invalid argument.
So then go to the conclusion.
Yeah.
Let me see. We're gonna. So yeah. So therefore, time, or just put time cannot be part of eternity.
Of eternity.
No. Actually, this is perfect. You know what? This, if you can't answer, I'll just leave, bro.
I accept your surrender. If you want to leave, that's up to you.
Yeah,
This
so
is
you
also an
haven't answered?
invalid argument. The premise
No,
time
what, you
cannot be a
haven't-
part of eternity appears
Yeah.
nowhere in here.
You cannot measure eternity with time, so it cannot be
You should
part
really
of
look
eternity.
into like formal logic such that you can give valid arguments. I'd suggest one of two things for you. Either stop trying to give formal arguments, or you should look into like logic such that you
Bro.
don't embarrass yourself in this way.
You wear a girl ring and you wear nail polish, and you
You think
sound
that this is
sassy,
a
bro.
girl
You
ring?
can- Don't give me advice.
Why is this a girl
More
ring?
advice. Let me give you advice, my brother. Yeah.
Yeah, give me advice.
Stop
Yeah. You seem like
Act
exactly the sort of person who I should take life advice and argument advice from. Yeah.
act more like a brother. You're not a
Yeah.
sister. You know
Of
what I mean?
course.
You act
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
girl. You have a
Yeah.
whole
But
beard.
you've
You
been
know,
bottoming
like
this
chill
entire
out, bro.
conversation.
No, you interrupt me 6 times. You don't answer my questions.
You keep on choking on my rhetorical dick. I mean, that's the sound of it. You know, you're gagging on my rhetorical hog.
Yeah, there are kids watching. I would advise you to not speak like this, you know?
Well, then they
I
shouldn't
don't think it's
watch. You know, I don't
appropriate.
think kids should watch my stream.
There's kids
He's
watching,
like
and
pivoting to like
you're
fucking grandstanding,
you're
swaying out
aware
more.
you're
I don't
you're
think that they should
aware
watch the
there's kids
stream.
you're aware there's kids watching,
Mhm.
and you still decided to say
Wait, but
that
you don't have
that
any
makes you
problems
perverted.
with kids being sexual the way that you think like
You're
Aisha
brother.
married Muhammad at the age of 9, right? Like, how old do you think Aisha was?
Yeah, so obviously you gonna
Fucking
run to other
brutal.
things. You haven't addressed me.
Holy shit, dude. Oh, he's not going to answer that one.
Are you gonna address it or no?
Sorry, wait, do you want to answer my question? How old do you think Aisha was when she conceived with the Prophet Muhammad?
Are you gonna answer my question or
I
no?
just asked you a question. How old do you think
Bye,
Aisha
faggot.
was?
Bye, faggot.
Okay, I accept your surrender. You got your fucking back blown out. Maybe he was like speaking into a mirror. All right, make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of reason to think that God exists as we go to the very next guest. Whoa. Carissa, thanks so much for the membership. Welcome as a cool Corey. Carissa, thanks so much for the 20 gifted memberships. Holy fucking shit. That's crazy. That's wild. That's girthy. There's like veins running across that even. That's incredible. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's get a big W for Carissa. Yeah, seriously. Kids are watching. F-slur, F-slur. Banger, dude. Banger concern for the children. Miko, thanks so much for the super chat. Or for the 5 gifted memberships. Let's get a big W, Miko. Thank you so much. LELs, thanks so much for the super chat. I really appreciate you consistently pulling up the notepad. It makes it much easier for me to actually process the arguments. Yeah, I think that the notepad is really useful because I think that I think formal arguments are like indispensably valuable. I think that they provide a level of clarity as to what my point is and why my conclusion follows that just me saying words will never be able to match or express. I think that it allows for like a level of linearity where, you know, you have to actually get a response to the thing that you're saying. There is no avoiding the conclusion unless you reject one of the premises, and I think that that's what's so cool about it. But yeah, it's like the best decision I ever made. All right, if you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. Excuse me. All right, let's go to the very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing good.
Yep, how old are you?
I'm 19.
And what religion?
Christianity.
Yeah, what makes you think God exists?
I believe Jesus exists.
Okay. I probably agree that Jesus is a historical figure. I think like probably the interesting question is whether he performed miracles. Do you have some reason to think that he performed miracles?
No.
Okay.
To be honest and to be straightforward with you, I don't think he turned water to wine.
Mhm.
I don't think he healed a blind person. I don't think he,
Rose from the dead?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh.
I do believe he is a historic figure that you should believe in because he died for us. So.
Okay, so I agree he's a historical figure, but one sec. Are you familiar with the Nicene Creed?
The Nicene Creed?
Yeah, it's like kind of like like the founding statement for basically every modern Christian denomination. I wonder, I don't know for sure. I just want to check this really quick.
Mm.
Yeah, okay. You would at that point have to reject the Nicene Creed, which is basically like if you go back in church history, like
Yep.
every single denomination is going to hold as like a matter of dogma the Nicene Creed. There's only like a couple of them that would reject it, like Mormons would reject something like the Nicene Creed. This is also where the Trinity comes from, for example,
Yeah.
is the
Yep.
Nicene
Yep.
Creed.
Yep. Yeah. I believe in the Trinity though.
Mhm,
I believe that there's a Jesus, a Holy Spirit, and there's a God. I
mhm.
believe there's all three different people.
Okay. So, I mean, the Nicene Creed affirms explicitly that Jesus rose from the dead. So, do you think that you would just disagree with it then?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess like I don't disagree with you that Jesus was a real historical figure. I just
Mhm.
don't think that him being like a real historical figure is a reason to think that he's God or that he died for our sins.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's totally fine.
Okay.
And I respect your argument.
Yep, that's totally fine. Do you have anything else?
No, I have nothing else to say.
Hey, well, thanks so much for coming on up. I appreciate you.
Yep. You too.
Yep. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen. Is it Nicene? Yeah, I'm sorry. I probably triggered like a bunch of people. Nicene. Damn. They Nicene me rolling. They hating. And with that, we'll go to the very next guest.
Hello,
Hey, how's it going? How old are you?
24.
Yep. And what religion?
I would say theist,
Mhm.
with kind of like leaning monist.
Sure. Do you think that a mind created the universe or that there's like a personal ultimate foundation?
Yes. I think that, yes, there's a personal ultimate foundation to the universe.
Okay. Yeah. What makes you think that that sort of thing exists?
Sure. I was wondering if I have 4 premises.
Yeah, go
I was
for it.
wondering if I could lay these out and then we can kind of decide which one to go with.
Yeah, go for it.
So the first is I define God as an object composed of all existing objects. The second is that persons exist. The third, if it's fine to go to it,
Mhm.
is that humans are persons despite having non-personal parts. The fourth is that being an object composed of all objects, persons are parts of God. And the conclusion is that God, a personal being outside space and time, exists.
So I think that probably like the glaring problem here is that the argument is invalid. Like the conclusion kind of comes out of nowhere. Unless I've like failed to track like something crucial about the argument.
Yeah,
I don't think
I can.
that it would follow from your premises that God would exist. So
Yeah, so I can
yeah.
add a couple like clarifying points.
Yeah, go for it.
So the first is what I'm trying to say is that God basically is as personal and existent as what we call persons. So insofar as humans exist and are persons, we should think that God exists and is a person.
But why?
And I think, yeah, so the I think biggest kind of question here is whether this commits a fallacy of composition. Sort of like, should we think that properties of simples apply to properties of their composites? So does the fact that God has persons within it mean that God is a person? So I say yes, and you're free to disagree. Like, this is kind of the
So
point that's under question. But
yeah, that's fine. So I have a relationship with my girlfriend, but I wouldn't say that the relationship itself is personal. I think that the people in the relationship are persons, but I don't think that the relation itself is a person.
well, do you think that your relationship with your girlfriend is different from your relationship with a rock?
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably say
Right.
that I don't really have a relationship with any rocks.
Sure. So what I say is that a property, and this is kind of like the like fundamental way, sort of like way that I ground my metaphysics is through properties. A property is just something that distinguishes between appearances, and appearances are just like phenomenological experiences, sort of like humane things that appear.
I mean, I have like philosophical thoughts about that, but I mean, I don't want to get too off track.
So just to connect the dots here, what I would say is the reason that your relationship with your girlfriend is personal and your relationship with a rock is not personal is because of the persons that distinguish between those two relationships.
I'm not sure I understand your point.
When we distinguish between sort of conceptual composites, like your relationship is a composite of you and your girlfriend, and then the relationship between you and a rock is a composite of you and that rock.
Mm-hmm.
So these are two composites. What distinguishes between those two composites and any composite, like for instance, a green ball and a red ball, anything that distinguishes between those two is a property. So the property
Okay.
of
I agree that
personhood
there's like
distinguishes personal relationships from non-personal relationships.
okay. So let's say me and my girlfriend together had a pet rock. We are the owners of this rock and we stand in that relationship to them or to the rock. Would you say
Mhm.
that relationship, like this ownership relationship, is itself a person? Also, okay, to be clear, you would say my relationship with my girlfriend is itself a person?
So, so two things. What I'm saying is, your relationship would be characterized as personal. Okay.
I'm asking if
So
it's like a
yeah.
person.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
do you think God is
So
like a
that
person, or do you just think
there's
God
two things.
includes
There's two things.
persons?
Yeah, there's two things. One is that it has the property of personhood, and then the second is I can't see a reason to say that humans are personal and composites with personhood are not personal. So I would say your relationship is personal. It is a person. Yes.
I think that that's like an on-face absurdity to say that my relationship with a girlfriend is itself a person.
Right. So I'm saying, can we find the reason that humans would be persons, but your relationship with your girlfriend would not?
Yeah, I mean, my relationship with my girlfriend is not conscious. Like the relationship itself is not conscious.
So consciousness is grounded in minds, right?
I think that consciousness is identical to a mind. I'm not sure that it's like grounded.
Sure. So can we say that a human is conscious?
Sometimes, yeah.
And a human is conscious because it has a mind, right?
Yeah, and so I mean, it's kind of saying like the same thing there, but yeah, like
Yeah.
it's conscious because it has a mind. It has a mind because it's conscious. Yeah.
Yeah. But humans also have arms and legs and like individual cells that are not conscious, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So a human is conscious because it has a mind as one of its simples, and yet it also has non-conscious simples, and yet as a composite, it is deemed conscious.
Yeah, I don't think that the person there is the organism. I think the person there is the mind. So, for example, let's say that we had like conjoined twins who were so conjoined that they are effectively one organism.
Mhm.
I would still hold that that's two persons because it's two minds. So I don't think that the person is the organism. I think the person is the mind.
Yeah, so I think we can go kind of two directions with this. We can try to find what like what is the simplest thing that you can call a person, or we can try to kind of try to go downward with our analysis, or try to go upward and seeing whether humans are in fact persons. But I feel like just intuitively humans we do consider to be persons.
Yeah, I think that if your position is that humans aren't persons, I don't know. I think I'd want some sort of argument for that.
No, that's
but
not. It's the opposite. It's that humans are persons,
yeah, I agree
and
with that.
for the same reason, God
Or at
would be
least
a
some of them
person.
are, yeah. But
Yeah, at
I
least
think
some
that
of
the
them.
thing that makes humans persons is that they have like the capacity for consciousness.
hmm So yeah, so I would say that God would also have the capacity for consciousness for the same reason that humans do.
Okay, but would you say like God is a being with a mind?
Yes, because it has a mind as a part of it.
So, but it has like tons of minds under your definition. So I take a person
Yes.
to be a single mind. If you have two minds, that's two people.
So if we view properties as what allows us to identify a composite, why would we think that only having one mind makes a person?
I'm not sure what that question's asking. Are you asking
Why do you require a single mind or a unified conscious experience in order to be a person?
I guess I just think that that's what the word means. I mean, I could give you like some arguments about why I think that a central feature of personhood is something like agency, and that agency itself is going to require a mind because that's what it takes to have intentions.
Sure. So if we say that agency is the required capacity of a person, I would think that sort of personal composites like a nation or a corporation could also have agency and therefore also be persons.
I think that you'd have to be speaking metaphorically there.
Um,
I don't think
it
that
not
the
be
corporation is like a
metaphorical if we
literal
agree on what
experience.
agency means.
So, could I get like maybe like a direct answer? Do you think that like the conjoined twins that I posited earlier, would you say that that's like one person or two people?
I would say both. The simples are persons, are two people, and the composite is also a person.
Okay, I'm asking about like the entire organism. Do you think the entire organism is associated with one person or two?
Like both. Like, for instance, you at this point in time, and then you 10 minutes from now are both individual people in that point in time. But then there is a unified person across both slices of time.
I think that that's the same person, though.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think that
but we're
there's
also
two
talking
people
about,
there. I think that that's just the same person.
I agree, but you can agree that you have changed over time, right?
Yeah.
So the sort of, ontological thing that you at this point in time is at this point in time is different from what you call Ian 10 minutes from now, right?
Yep. But the thing that makes something identical to Ian is having the Ian essence. So
Yeah.
if my essential traits remain the same, and then my non-essential traits change, and then there's like an Ian with some essential or some like non-essential traits, and then there's like another Ian with different non-essential traits at different time slices. This is just one Ian. It's just that this one Ian has changed.
Yeah, it's sort of the thing that has remained constant between those two Ians, right? Is what Ian is.
Yep. Just like
And
the
so-
essential features of it, yeah.
Yeah, so we could call that a property because it's not allowing you to distinguish between those two. It's like sort of the property is only the thing that distinguishes between those two Ians.
You
But
want to say like that's like the Ian essence is the property, or what's the property?
Yeah, it's the Ian essence. Yeah,
Well,
like
yeah,
Ian Hood.
sure. Like there's going to be like
Ian Hood,
essential
Ian-ness would be the
properties. Yeah,
property. Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that this same analysis of personhood would be applicable to God as well. And so, like, God is a person for the same reason that humans are people. Like, humans have personhood across time. Even if you're looking at two humans at one point in time versus another, they're both people. For the same reason, God would be a person.
Okay. Do you think that how many persons is God?
Like how many personal simples comprise God?
No, how many people is God? Like I'm one person.
God would be
You're
one
one
being.
person.
Yeah, God would be one being.
God would be one person?
Yeah.
But he has so many minds. I think that if I had two minds, then I would be two people.
There would be two like personal simples. In the same way, at 2 points in time, there would be two minds. Like those minds have changed over time as well, but there's one personal composite that allows you to say this is Ian over time.
Okay. I guess I'm not really sure how to make progress here because you're just biting like really unintuitive bullets to me. Like when you say, for example, that you think like a conjoined twins is both like two people and one person, I don't really know what that even means. But I mean, unless you can agree that conjoined twins are two people, that if you had these conjoined twins, this one organism is two people, it's not one person. I'm not really sure that this conversation could really continue.
Maybe I could dig deeper into how I'm generating that metaphysical conclusion.
Sure.
So I guess, like, are you familiar with mereological universalism?
Yeah.
So any object can be, just I guess for the audience, like any object can be constructed and is real from a set of composites. Like we would say like a chair is a real object because it's comprised of simples, like the legs of the chair and the base of the chair. But the unintuitive part is even something like the Eiffel Tower and the Pyramid of Giza would be an object as opposed to two distinct objects. So the reason I say that, I think despite it being unintuitive, is that it makes more sense than any other account of the relationship between simples and composites.
That's fine, but then in order to arrive at the conclusions that you're arriving at, you would basically need to be equivocating at some point. To say that one person is two persons is like you're definitely either like directly contradicting or like equivocating.
I think I'm not equivocating because I'm saying that, like, sort of when we say the word person, we just mean a personal object, like a personal composite.
Okay. I just don't think that that's how the term is used. Like,
Yeah,
I don't.
so we would settle that question of how the term is used by looking at how persons, like the word person, is used in sort of like ordinary language.
Okay. Well, I think in ordinary language, people would consider conjoined twins to not be one person. They would consider it to be two people.
But how would you settle the sort of like people over time question? Like, this is sort of like Parfit's account of identity, is that people are
based
just
on
sort
like
of
minds.
Yeah,
minds
but if
connected by
minds
like
change
spatial
over time,
proximity, they still
if
have like the same
minds-
essential feature, which is like their history, and then like spatial connection.
So if you have sort of like this like what's it called, amnesia example, where you have like two minds that are disconnected by history over time, disconnected by memory over time.
I think that if you have amnesia, then you're no longer the same person.
And then what if you have temporary amnesia where you remember it again?
Okay, would you maintain all the memories that you previously had?
We'll start with yes.
Okay, then you would, because you would have a continuous stream of memories going backwards.
And then in that intermediate period where you've forgotten, there would be a separate person, just a completely different person.
Yes.
Okay. And then the reason that we can say that that is the same person over time, or the person that has those memories over time is the same person, is because they have shared properties between them, like
Because
shared
the
memories
yeah,
between
it's
them.
like the chain of memory is combined with like a spatial temporal continuity there.
Yeah. I'll just focus on memory because, like, I think the more properties we add, the more difficult it will get to sort of like, like if we talk about space, then we, can talk about like the teleportation examples, like just, yeah, I'm trying not to complicate things,
Listen,
but
you
like,
seem like a nice enough guy, but this is just so far away from the God topic.
well, I think it is directly related. It's an argument for the kind of God that like Spinoza or like sort of like Hindu philosophy would argue, which is that God is sort of like an ultimate being that grounds the existence of all of the sort of like simples. Like we're sort of confusing things by thinking of the self as being apart from God. We're all a part of God.
Okay, I mean, if you're just saying like reality exists, I don't disagree that reality exists. I'm saying that there
Yeah.
isn't like some sort of like personal ultimate foundation. I mean, prior to the existence of persons, do you think that the ultimate foundation was personal? I guess
No.
like human persons. Was it personal?
No.
Um, I guess maybe a clarification. Maybe this would be a good point. At that point, you'd be saying that being personal is a non-essential property of the ultimate foundation. Whereas I take like God to be referring to a personal ultimate foundation, but that's like the essential properties is that it's a personal ultimate foundation. Maybe that would be like an important clarification.
We could probably say the same thing about humans, right? That like babies aren't persons and therefore humans aren't essentially persons. And yet, if we refer to a human in the abstract, we think of it as a person.
I think you would definitely say that babies are persons. I think
I
that like the
mean,
average person would absolutely say that.
we talked about agency. I don't think babies have agency.
They
They're
absolutely
clearly like
do.
legally not treated as persons insofar as they're not able to vote. I think this is like less controversial than you're taking it to be, that babies aren't persons.
I think that if you walked up to
People
like a
say that
baby and
that
said like this
animals
isn't
aren't.
a person, I guess I just don't think that that would be.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
Like
think
that
we're
just seems
probably
like obviously false.
misunderstanding definitions here. I mean like persons in specifically the sort of like moral persons or like philosophical persons sense.
You don't think babies are like moral persons?
Like the sort of like animal ethics of like whether we have normative obligations towards animals
Yeah.
is settled by seeing the extent to which they're moral persons.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary to agree on whether babies are or are not, but I'm saying for whatever reason they are or are not would also apply to God insofar as whether it is or is not a person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that what makes somebody a person is having one mind.
Mm-hmm. So, and only one mind.
Yeah, I think so.
And you don't think that this sort of time example where there are two like different minds that happen to share the same property is a counter.
Well, technically it's the same. Technically it is the same mind. It's just that there isn't like connected properties. I'm saying that having a mind is sufficient for being a person, although there definitely could be additional properties there that are like necessary.
I view a mind
totally think that there's like good questions that you're raising related to philosophy of identity, what makes something the same person over time. But I think that what must be agreed to is that if you have a mind, then you are a person.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
but
Yes,
also
but I don't
it's gonna
think
be
that
like,
that a person is merely something with only one mind.
I think that if you have two minds, then you're two people. Like, for example, you would consider conjoined twins to be, well, I guess you wouldn't, which is why it's impossible to make progress, because you think conjoined twins are both one person and two.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to do is convince you of my view, not, sort of. So, like, for instance, like the ship of Theseus example, like what makes it a ship is not that its simples are the same over time. And in the same way, if we take the physicalist view that a mind is just, a collection of neurons, it clearly can't be after 15 years that you remain the same mind. And yet we have this common identity between the two. Where we treat it as one mind,
Yeah.
despite there being two ontologically completely different objects. We are able to treat it as one thing.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I'll reiterate. I don't think it's possible to make progress in this conversation because you've bit bullets that are just like way too unintuitive to me. I don't know how one person can be two persons.
Okay. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether there's anything that would be that I could clarify that would make it more intuitive, unless you think there is.
I don't know. I mean, but listen, I don't know. You seem like a nice enough person, but I think that this is like, yeah. I appreciate you coming on up, but I'm gonna move on to the next one. All right, make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. Yeah, I got you, Molly. Okay, I shared the screen. Did you get the screen? Okay. All right. Yep. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. If you are in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. And with that, we will go to the very next guest. Oh, wait. Sorry. This me person rejoined. I was going to go to Catholic Thinker. I got you next. Hey, how's it going, me?
Not too bad. I really enjoyed the last one. Your last conversation there.
Yeah.
I actually share a lot of his views. As far as, basically, I believe in more or less Gnosticism. It's kind of like the original version of Christianity.
That's a contentious claim.
Yeah, I know. It's I don't believe everything from any particular religion, but I do think there is a God, and I think.
And by God, do you mean like a something
Creator.
that is personal, like a person who is ultimate? That is to say, like, the grounding of everything other than itself.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. What makes you
Yes.
think that sort of thing exists?
I think that. Well, I watched a few your little shows. I don't know your episodes here, conversations. I think the reason I believe that is because without it, there would be chaos, and chaos would mean that you would say you bought yourself a Toyota one morning, and the next morning that thing all the photons, protons, neutrons, all that would just fall apart, and you would just have something else in your yard.
I think I must have missed something. You're saying if God didn't exist, then the Toyota you bought would fall apart?
Well, yeah, because it would be chaos. Everything would be erratic. All of the cosmos would just act erratically. Nothing would be constant. There would be no structure. You see what I mean?
My understanding is that the strong nuclear force and the electromagnetic force are the things that cause all these atoms to stay together. So I'm not sure why God is necessary for those forces. That's just going to emerge from the geometry of the universe.
Right. Well, yeah, basically, it's just you know, how do I'm just trying to figure out how to explain it. So first of all, we don't really understand gravity 100%, so we can't really use that as an example. Yeah, I guess you could use nuclear, how the sun operates, basically works off of nuclear fission, right?
Maybe. I don't know enough
Yeah.
about the sun. Could be.
Yeah. So, but but basically, before time started is basically when chaos existed. That was the point of that. And I saw your argument about the beginning of time. It always existed, but there's the infinite time. What do they call that? Where it doesn't. I'm trying to think of the name.
The eternal universe?
Paradox.
Oh.
Yeah, the
what's
infinite
the
time
paradox?
The paradox is if time always existed, not enough time would pass for us to be able to exist here in this time.
What?
I'm sure you've heard of it.
I guess I'm
You've
not
never
really
heard of
sure
it?
what the problem there is. So
Well,
I hold
because-
to a theory of time. So the standard theory of time, the one that is intuitive to most people, is something called presentism, where they hold that the present is the only thing that exists, that
Right.
nothing exists that isn't in the present, that the past no longer exists, that the future does not yet exist, only the present exists, and it has like a unique ontological status to it. I hold to something called eternalism. I think that the past, present, and future all exist. Different moments are at different moments, in the same way that like different locations are at different locations.
Right.
There are different points in time, there are different points in space, but all of the points of space are actual in the same way that all of the points in time are actual.
Right. Yeah, and I mean you can kind of prove that with light, obviously, with the speed of light and everything.
Yep, you can.
So if you were to travel a million light years away and look back at us, we would see what was occurring, a million light years, prior to present, based on where you are in the universe. So yeah, so obviously the past has to still exist in order for that to be possible. I'm sure you can agree with that.
I think that there's a bit more nuance there, but I mean, I definitely agree that the past, present, and future are all actual. Yeah.
So,
but
yeah,
the question,
I
how do we arrive to here if the past is infinite?
Well, I don't think
here
I
always
don't think that-
existed.
I don't think that. I do believe that there was a beginning of time. So, in order for us to get to this point, the present, there couldn't have time cannot be infinite going backwards. Otherwise, you would still be going backwards in time, and you would never be able to get to the present.
So
That's basically.
I agree with you that if there was a beginning, then time can't be infinite. The problem is that I don't think time does have a beginning, so I think that it can be infinite.
I just think that there's no way for us to know whether or not the Big Bang was the beginning of time. That I agree with you on, because the universe can expand and contract. It could have done that in an almost infinite number of times before we got to the Big Bang. That may be true, but something had to have started something. So whether or not we exist out of chance or if we exist based on a creator, we have to admit that something had to have started something miraculous at some point had to have started the chain reaction.
Okay. The reason why that's not true is because time has always existed, and I'll give you the argument for that. So change has always existed because, let's say change didn't always exist. Then there would be some state with no change, and then it would change into a state with change. So you would have a change before the very first change.
That creates a paradox.
It creates a contradiction. So there can't be a state without change, because in transitioning from the state without change to the state with the first change, there would be a change there between these two states, which means that there would be a change before the very first change, which is a contradiction. So change always existed. And if
I
change
agree with you on that.
exists, then time exists, because I mean, change just is going from one moment to another one, like a different incompatible moment. That's what a change is. So if
Yeah, so
change
you
exists, then moments exist. And if moments exist, then time exists.
I can understand how you could draw that conclusion. The way that I would define time is when the first thing ever moved apart from the second thing. Because otherwise, if you only have, let's just say, one spot of matter in the center of the universe, and it's just sitting still, it is essentially just a still picture.
Yeah.
Right? You take a picture of it, you've captured all of it. But as soon as it starts to move, then as you take multiple pictures, you can see that relative from one to the other, that something has moved. And so that would be the beginning of time.
So the problem that I think
Because
this view
it is
runs into, so we have this not changing state, and then this not changing state, like a change occurs in the not changing state. So it seems like we would both
it would be
not
the
have
first
change
stage.
because it's a state with no change, and then there would be like a change that occurs
So
in
the
it. So then change would exist. So it seems like change both
right,
would and
so-
wouldn't exist in this state, which is a contradiction.
Well, the first period where from the period of when the entire time there was no change to the first change, that first change would be the start of time.
Going from a state without change to the first change would itself be a
Right.
change. So there would be a
I know-
change before the first change.
Right. Wouldn't that be that sounds paradoxical?
It's a direct
It is.
contradiction.
Right. Well, that's what a paradox is, a contradiction, is it not?
I mean, there's nuance there. It's a bit more than that. This is not a paradox. It's a contradiction, technically speaking, and contradictions are strictly false.
Okay. Well, I one other point.
Yeah,
when
go for
the guy was so I'm just gonna skip over to what the last guy was talking about. I'm just gonna make one point and then I'll get
Yeah,
off
go
your
for it.
stream. But what was that?
No, I said go for it. You're totally fine.
Okay, so when the guy was talking about how God had multiple minds and you couldn't understand how a person could have more than one mind, I think the best way that I could because I do agree with that we're all part of the mind of God, so to speak, because we're more or less tellers or sensors for the overall the main being, which is God. If you even look at, anything about cephalopods, like octopuses, each of their tentacles acts without any output from the head brain. Each tentacle has its own brain and functions by themselves. You can look it up.
That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, you should. It's actually my favorite animal because, there's so many fascinating things about that animal. But yeah, each of its tentacles, I think 80% of its brain power is within its tentacles, and then it's got like a central brain. And so I think that the God that he was trying to describe would have been similar to that, where God had like the central brain, but each tentacle that acts independently would have been like the people's, right? And then essentially it's all part of one being, right? So that is just, you can look into it. I've looked into it. I know it's accurate.
Wait, one sec. Give me just 2 seconds. I'm gonna go. My girlfriend's like a neuroscience grad student. I'm gonna go talk to her really quickly.
Yeah, do that.
Okay. She had no idea.
Yeah, you can Google it.
This
It'd
is
take
what
you
this
2
is what they're
seconds.
teaching people in schools these days. All these liberal universities, you know, they don't even
Well,
teach, you know,
I,
the ganglia of the
I,
octopus. All they teach is pronouns nowadays. But
oh,
no, I'm
but
kidding. But sure, yeah.
I do say I really enjoy your show. It's fun to watch you, you know, make people, you know, step backwards, you know, backtrack on what they're saying. I'm happy I didn't get roasted. I
Yeah.
feel like that.
You were a
You
polite
know,
guy. The only people who get roasted are the ones who are impolite. I don't know. I
okay.
would never be mean to somebody who isn't either being like, I don't know, like negligently ignorant or you know, somebody who is themselves being like impolite.
But anyways, yeah, I don't know. Maybe go look into that octopus thing. I think you'll
will.
understand more or less what the other guy was talking about.
Okay.
And yeah, continue what you're doing, man.
Yep.
It's fun to watch.
Hey, thanks so much for coming
All
on
right.
up. I appreciate you.
All right.
Bye-bye. That dude was pretty chill. Hey, how's it going?
Going great. I wasn't expecting you so early, so I'm pleasantly surprised that you started early. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I have a date night tonight.
Fair enough. But yeah, so I wanted to touch on your thing about like the temporal parts and
Yeah.
God's knowledge on that. So
Sure.
um,
Although I don't think that God's knowledge, I don't think there's a problem for the B theory of time because there is no fact of the matter as to like what moment it is now.
okay, so it's more on just like the emanation and how can God be sustaining Socrates 2,000 years ago, and that be true for that slice of time, and not be distinct from his emanation of our slice of time, and then not be two different parts is
Yeah.
the
Well,
concern. Okay.
so probably the way that I might characterize the problem, I don't know what sort of view of omnipresent you hold to.
hmm
Um, but if you're saying like God, it is true at all moments to say that God exists, then you're saying like God exists at all moments.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Um, the way that I understand it is, and again, like this goes back to like my understanding of the different omni traits not being a literal property in the sense of, um, God's omniscience being knowledge added on to his existence. It's our attempt to describe the singular essence of God in how it appears to us, because there's something about that singular essence that appears to be similar to knowledge, and so we describe it in that using that language when it's not a literal property of God.
Mhm.
And the same thing for like omnipresence, like because God doesn't have a body, he doesn't have spatial location or spatial presence.
Yeah.
But because he is the source of all that exists and all that has presence, so to speak, we can say that he's present in all moments, because if he wasn't the source of that, then it wouldn't exist. And so that's what the omnipresence means. So the reason, and one of the thing, because there was like, depending on like the very specific issue that you had, um, there was like three possible solutions, and I think the one that might help you is
Yeah.
the God being simple and not having parts, and even if he's like present, like has that omnipresence across all of space-time and the eternality of time, it doesn't mean that the effects that he creates can't have parts. So while it is true that God's singular act is present in every single moment in time, time is not God. Therefore, time can have parts, even if God, as the source of that time, does not have parts.
Sure. I guess maybe I could like articulate the objection. The critique is specifically that God himself would seem to have parts, or like temporal parts, that is. So maybe I'd want to say something like this. God is present, or God's presence exists at all moments. If God's presence exists at all moments, then God's presence is temporally extended. God is identical to his presence. And then I guess I'll throw in like a, if, maybe I'll say, if the third premise is true and God's presence is temporally extended, then God is temporally extended. Everything with temporal extension under B theory, or wait, sorry, maybe I'll phrase this one as, if the B theory of time is true, then everything with temporal extension has temporal parts. Therefore, if the B theory of time is true, then God is temporal parts.
Yeah, the one that I would have a contention with
Mhm.
is 2, and I think that's just like I don't see how that's connected, or at least why it would necessarily follow for that. And I think, because I was focusing a lot on the omniscience one, because that was something that you were originally bringing up, and I know you've been thinking on it. So your perspectives changed a little bit, but the thing with like the omniscience aspect of it is, you've got your pen, and you can understand that pen either in its parts, the tip, the materials, all of the different parts of it. You can understand have knowledge of those individual parts, but you can also have the knowledge of it as a whole. And so for God,
wait, I hate to interrupt you, but I don't think that there's
Mhm.
a problem on your worldview that has to do with like omniscience. I think that the omniscience paradoxes with God, or like the omniscience contradictions with God, only arise if you hold either to a theory of time, or you hold that there's some state of affairs where God exists and creation doesn't. I think under either of these circumstances, God can't be a timeless being. Like his knowledge must change. But
Yes.
I don't think that this problem arises if you think creation always existed. And then in addition to that, you think that like the B theory of time is true.
Yeah, and I agree. Like the reason why I was bringing it up is to then hopefully draw a parallel to
Sure.
the temporal parts, or the temporal extension. And so like you can have a knowledge of a thing in its parts or as a whole. So God has knowledge of all reality as a whole. So, as you were talking about, like that's why the omniscience thing isn't a problem for B theory of time, because he just has knowledge of all of time as a whole.
I think we probably agree. Maybe we're just speaking past, but to be clear, the reason why I don't think it's a problem is because there is no fact of the matter as to like there is no now, or like a distinct now under B theory, which is why I don't think there's a problem with God not knowing what time it is now, because there is no fact there.
Yes. And so the reason why I was getting at is like if that attribute, or what we call that attribute of God, of the knowledge,
Mhm.
then, and everything, according to the dogma of divine simplicity, is actually referring to one and the same thing. So when we talk about how God's knowledge works in relation to existence, then, or to reality, then the same understanding, or at least a similar understanding, can work for his relation in other capacities, so to speak. So the temporal extension is less of him being present, being distinct 2,000 years ago, from being present to our moment in time. So it's less of a temporal part in God and more of his presence encompasses all of time as a singular, I don't want to say singular event, but that's the only way I can describe it. But like,
Are you
he
saying maybe? Are you holding to? Do you know? Are you familiar with I think it's. Is her name Eleanor Stump?
I
Are you
am
familiar
not
with
familiar.
the Stump Kurtzman model of eternity?
I am not,
Okay.
or at least not with those names. I might be familiar with the idea, just not. I'm just not
So
familiar with those individuals.
so what Stump and Kurtzman basically describe, like the way that they characterize God's eternity, is they say that God's eternity is simultaneous with all moments, which allows it to stay like simple because um, all moments are simultaneous to God.
Yes.
Okay. The problem is that if A is simultaneous to B and B is simultaneous to C, then A is simultaneous to C,
Hmm.
which means that all moments are simultaneous to each other.
Is that not what B theory
No, B theory. So B
entails?
theory holds that they all exist. B theory is not saying that they're like the same time.
Mm. Okay, so see, I knew that the misunderstanding had to have been on how we were describing B theory of time, and I was more than ready to admit that the misunderstanding might have been on my side, because my understanding of B theory and is, if all moments are real and you have an outside observer such as God looking at all of these real moments, then from his perspective, because they are all real, you could also say that they're all uh, simultaneous in some capacity, in an analogical sense. Um,
So
so, like, I know that there's a series of relations, but the way that I always understood it is, if I took a film reel and I laid it all out, even though there's a series of uh, priority to the events, like uh, where one leads to the next, so they're not simultaneous in that perspective. If I'm looking at the whole thing beyond it, you could say that it's also all simultaneous. So
uh
I've held that simultaneous view, and just I think I was misattributing B theory to that then.
sure. I don't think you'd want to say like, okay, let's say you have like the video editor in front of you and there's like the video editor timeline that's
Mhm.
done there. I don't think you would want to say that every point in the timeline is simultaneous to every other point in the timeline. I think that the true statement there is that they all exist. They just exist at different points in the timeline, which is different. Like something is simultaneous if it's at the same time. But then, I mean,
So simultaneous is saying, instead of it being a timeline, it's more of a time point.
no, simultaneous is just saying that it happens at the same time.
I'm parsing through it.
Yeah, me too. It's okay. You can totally take your time.
Okay, I'll need to look into definitely need to look into the simultaneous thing, because because when I was studying years and years and years ago, before I even knew that B theory was a thing, I was reading on, how God relates to time as understood by Thomas Aquinas and other classical thinkers.
Hmm.
And then I came across B theory of time, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is very close, if not identical, to um, how Aquinas describes God's relation, like how time would appear to God. Um, that I might have missed some subtle differences.
I think you're probably correct to hold to B theory. If your goal is to make sense of a timeless God, I think that there's like basic trivial contradictions, like obvious immediate contradictions if you hold to A theory.
Oh yeah,
with a
I
timeless
agree
God.
100%.
But I think that you're absolutely correct to hold to B theory. But okay, wait, let me I could give
It
you
was more
some.
the B theory versus the simultaneity, because
Mhm.
when you describe simultaneity and saying that it's different from B theory, my brain is trying to parse, because in the perspective of God as I understand it, the beginning of the beginning of creation, or Adam and Eve, or like whatever moment you want to describe, in his perspective is the same as our moment of time, and is the same as his second coming and everything in between.
That seems to imply that in actuality, the moment where Adam and Eve fall is the same as the moment of the second coming.
In God's perspective, yes.
That runs into an immediate problem too, which is that if God believes something, it's true, which means that it seems like you'd be left affirming that the moment of the fall of man is the same moment as the moment of like the second coming, which seems obviously false.
That gets into the aspect of God has the knowledge of all of reality as a singular whole, not in of its parts, and we have the knowledge of reality in its parts. So it's more of that. It's that's why I was like, I'll need to look into that simultaneity thing to see if there's problems with it, because that was kind of how I was understanding B theory of
You should,
time, and you're saying that
yeah.
there's differences to it.
If I was just gonna say, if you want some good resources on this, I know the Stanford or the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy article. If you want to look more into the Stump and Kretzmann model,
Hmm.
there's this great IEP article titled "God and Time"
Okay.
that outlines like kind of a lot of views, but one of them is Stump and Kretzmann, like their eternity simultaneity view, and then there's also this article, Eternity in Christian Thought, from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, that
Yeah.
likewise has like a hugely long section. And so I don't know, maybe you'd like the view.
Yeah. Because that's, as you're describing the simultaneity theory, that's sounding closer to the way that I was thinking of B theory. So I'm like, now it's less of, for me, it's less of, what's true, A theory or B theory, but more of like B theory or simultaneity, or is there some aspect where it's kind of, I don't know.
You definitely
I'll
don't
need
want to
to
say
look
that all
into,
moments are simultaneous.
like,
That's
they're definitely not simultaneous to us.
okay. So
Like, I'm not trying to claim that. Like, I agree with you. Like, B theory is definitely true for us. But the way that I always understood it is, just because it's true, like, we talked about like the road changing from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, and like if you're walking along it from your perspective, it looks like the road is actually changing. When you look at it as a whole, it's not changing. It just always is, in the sense of like there is a difference between those aspects. And so that's more of what I'm trying to say is like we're moving along in this B theory of time. Yet for God, who is able to see all of B theory of time, his perspective is one of simultaneity, while from our perspective, it's not.
Okay. I think the
Like
question to me
that's
that
more of what I was getting at. Yeah.
the question to me that I think seems to create like problems is, okay, whose perspective is the true one though? It seems like you're probably going to be left saying that even though it appears that moments are different, in actuality they're all the same.
Yeah. I personally have no problem saying that our perspective is not objectively true.
Mm.
Like because we don't have it, like even even with like to kind of use Kant for a moment here, like the language of the appearances. Anything that is a I think it's inductive argument where we're using the from experience and then reasoning from experience, from effects to causes. We're looking at it from appearance, and so we're doing our best to understand reality as it appears to us, whereas God knows reality as it is. So I don't have a problem necessarily saying that we have a limited access to objective truth or reality, and God's perspective of reality of simultaneity is true objectively, whereas for us we have, like, even within B theory of time, you can say that it appears subjectively true for A theory, or I don't know if subjective is the right term there, but reality has the appearance of A theory, and A theory seems intuitively true, but the reality of it is B theory. And
wait, okay, so I think that I don't think that we can conflate between, I don't think that we should be conflating between like all moments are simultaneous to each other and B theory. B theory does not hold that all moments are simultaneous to each other.
right. And that's what I was trying to use that as like an analogy thing. But I'll need to look into the differences between B theory and simultaneity, because like I said, I wasn't aware of that there even was a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just my understanding of it, like, hey, what would B theory look like to a being that is not a part of that block? And simultaneity was the answer that I came to. So I've been conflating the two without realizing it, and not realizing that there is a difference. And so I'll need to parse that out and figure out if there is a solution, or if there's an actual problem there.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Well, and my goal is like definitely not to like humiliate you, but probably what you want to be worried about is that your position's probably, based on what you've said today, I think your position would probably commit you to saying that right now is the same moment as the moment that you were born, that you were born in this moment, which I don't think you want to say something like that.
See, I don't want to say, like, I don't even think like simultaneity necessarily commits you to that, but like, I'll need to look into the specific aspects of it, because like I said, this is like classical thought as I was understanding it. And then I learned about B theory, and I was like, oh, this fits pretty nicely into it. The way that I understand it is the moment that I was born is just as real to God as this particular moment for me, even though I've moved, like my awareness has moved past the moment that I was born. Yet for God, they are real on it.
Mhm.
But I'll need to
Sure.
look into that.
Okay. Is there anything else?
That is it for
Sure.
right now.
But hey,
I
have a
think
great
I'm
day.
almost ready.
Oop,
You too.
fuck. Sorry, I was about to kick you off
No,
too soon.
no, you're good. I do want to say, like, I think I'm almost done with the second half of the argument. So if you remember where it was
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
necessary existing thing, and I think I'm almost done with the second half of it. Hopefully I'll be able to present that soon.
Yeah, I'd love that. Hey, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
All right, later. Whoa, holy shit. This one dude is like crashing the fuck out in the comment section. This like see heaven guy. Bro is coping because I won the poll. Look at that. Flo got fucking annihilated. Check the poll. All right. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of reason to think that God exists. If you don't have some sort of reason, then don't request to join. And with that, we will go to the very next guest. Let's get him on up in here. Or wait, sorry, we have supers. Let's read supers. Kane, thanks so much for the $2 super chat. Cthulhu is the true god confirmed. Hail tentacles. I will. Oop. Jeremy, thanks so much for the super chat. Are you familiar with the atheist debater T-Jump? I would love to see you two collaborate. That would be at the Epic. I'm like vaguely familiar with them. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of his content to have like too big of an opinion. All right, we good? Molly, let me know. Okay. Yep. Hey, if you want to get started with philosophy, but you don't know where to start, you should join the Discord. We're doing a book club. We're reading Michael Huemer's Knowledge, Reality, and Value. We've already read the first 13 chapters, but we're on chapter 14. The book club is tonight at 8 p.m. EST. We typically get around 50 people there, but the book is on Audible. You can literally go and read it. You can listen to it on Audible. It'll take like 45 minutes to read the chapter. You don't need to read any of the previous chapters. It's a great book. All right. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, going well. How are you?
Doing well. How old are you?
I'm 23.
Yep. And what religion?
Protestant Christian.
Sure. What makes you think God exists?
Yeah. I think, to me at least, the most convincing evidence for God existing is the impossibility of the contrary.
Okay. Why is the contrary impossible?
Sure. So I think you would agree that reality exists.
I would.
That we exist.
Yeah.
That we have sense perception, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
And so my argument would be that the Christian theistic worldview is the only worldview that can logically hold all of these things together.
Mhm. And why would that be true? Why could none of the other worldviews hold these things together?
Sure. Well, I guess we could maybe take your worldview, for example. So do you think you could maybe tell me about your worldview?
Yeah.
I'm relatively new to your
That's fine.
stream, so
Yep.
I'm not familiar with maybe your whole
Yeah.
position.
So, I hold that supernatural things, broadly speaking, don't exist. And I think that the reason for that is because of the impossibility of the contrary. I mean, we have, things like reality exists, we have sense perception, and the worldviews that reject and think that supernatural things do exist. They're contradictory.
Got it. So would you say that you're then a materialist?
No, I'm a Platonist.
Okay. Can you draw that out for me a little more?
Yeah, I hold that abstract objects exist, like mathematical objects
Mhm.
exist.
Got
So
it.
I think
So,
that
like,
there's like certain
laws of logic, for
immaterial
example.
things. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I hold
You think
that
laws of logic
propositions exist.
maybe exist?
No, I think that the laws of logic exist, but I don't know if the laws of logic exist platonically. The laws of logic, for example, could be like a necessary precondition or like an abstraction of like the requirements to have thoughts that are about something as opposed to nothing.
Got it. Okay. I'm somewhat following, I would say. So I guess under your worldview, the laws of logic may exist. So, okay, let me maybe parse this out a little more. When I talk about the laws of logic, I would describe them as immaterial, unchanging, and universally applying. Would you agree?
No, they're trivially not universal. They only apply to propositions.
Okay, can you maybe parse that out a little more?
Yeah.
I'm not really a logician or a philosopher, but just a guy with some questions.
That's okay.
So,
Yeah, I'm happy to help out with that. So propositions. So we have statements, and these statements can be true or false. It's kind of it's a bit tricky to describe exactly what a proposition is, but a proposition is basically the thing that statements which are true or false refer to. That it's not just like the sentence itself or like the words itself, but kind of like the meaning or like the picture that's behind the statement that you're making. So for example, you would want to say, if I say snow is white, and then I have like a German person who says Schnee est weiß, there'd be like the same proposition there, even though like the words are different. So propositions could probably be understood as like the thing that is referred to by statements that are true or false. And the laws of logic govern propositions, but they don't govern like non-propositions.
Sure, right. But I guess maybe let me clarify what I say when I mean universally applicable. I mean that A does not equal not A, and that is true universally.
That's a proposition, by the way. So I think that, yes,
okay.
Yeah, I think that for all propositions, the laws of logic are going to apply.
Okay, so we agree then on I guess the three tenets that I laid out about the laws of logic, assuming we're using similar language when we talk about universally applicable.
The idea that they're immaterial, I think, is probably going to be contentious. I think that they're likely going to have the same ontological status as whatever propositions end up being, and propositions could be completely like mind dependent.
Okay, so then the laws of logic are mind dependent?
Maybe, if that's what propositions turn out to be. If propositions are mind independent, then I would hold that the laws of logic are mind independent. If laws of logic are mind dependent, or if propositions are mind dependent, then I would hold that the laws of logic are likewise mind dependent.
Okay, so are you saying that that's something that you're undecided about? Or
yeah, I think either way, it's no problem for the view.
No problem for the atheist view?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's assume that the laws of logic are immaterial. How would you?
Okay, sure. Yeah, let's say they're Platonic. That's fine.
So how would you explain that in an atheist worldview?
Well, I'm a
After you just
Platonist,
explain that,
so I would just hold that they're abstract objects.
That they're abstract objects that are immaterial?
Yes, abstract objects are immaterial. Correct.
Okay, interesting.
And like numbers, for example, are like other abstract objects. Like the number 1, it's not like a material thing, so it would exist, but it would exist like atemporally, aspatially. You know, wouldn't have like causal influence. Yeah.
So, what would you apply to say that, or I guess maybe let me ask this a little bit more directly. What authority would you apply to say the laws of logic are real things, that whether someone believes in them or not, they are objectively true? How would you argue that?
Yeah, because in order to reject the laws of logic, you would need to presuppose them. So for example, let's say that you're going to make the claim that the law of non-contradiction is not true. Well, in order to say that it's not true, you're presupposing that some things are not the case, which is going to commit you to the law of non-contradiction, because you're going to have, the things that are the case and the things that aren't the case, and there's going to be like a distinction between them. The things that are the case are the case. They're not the things that are not the case. So the laws of logic are inescapable. You can't deny them, because to do so would presuppose them.
Yes, I would agree with that. I guess my argument would be that to presuppose the laws of logic would also be to presuppose the Christian theistic worldview.
Why?
Because you cannot have immaterial and maybe instead of universally applicable, let's say universally binding principles in a worldview in which there is no God, there is no creator, sustainer of said universe, in which we can reliably continue to use such laws of logic.
Why? What would be the problem with holding that they exist as abstract objects?
So I guess my problem would be that you're describing them, but you're not necessarily proving them in a way. And I would also say that without there being any sort of Christian theistic worldview in play, excuse me, you wouldn't have the logical foundation to presuppose the laws of logic. So you would not be able to say A does not equal not A, and that is objectively true, and everyone must hold to that, because under the atheist worldview, A could maybe equal not A, and maybe that could be true tomorrow or the next day.
Maybe maybe evolution gave us senses that don't properly track. Maybe I misheard you, but I could have sworn that a couple of seconds ago you said that you agreed with my proof of the law of non-contradiction. But then just now you said that you don't think you can prove it. Like you can't prove the laws of logic. So which one is it? Can you prove them or can you not?
Yes. So I agree with, I think we've agreed on the laws of logic.
Yes,
on
but
their
do you
existence
agree that the
and on their
proof works,
substance.
or do you disagree?
So hold on. So what I'm saying is we are agreeing, but my argument would be that our agreement is only on the common ground of the Christian theistic worldview and not on the common ground of the atheist worldview. Does that make sense?
No. Do you think that the proof that I gave earlier is successful, or do you think it's not successful?
Can you restate it?
Yeah, it's just that if you were to make the claim that the laws of logic do not exist, then to make this claim, you're going to have some sort of conceptual distinction. You're going to have the distinction between the things that are and the things that are not. And you're going to say that the things that are not, they're not the things that are, which commits you to the law of non-contradiction, because it would be false to say that the things that are the things that are not. When you say that something is not the case, you're committing yourself to specific logical operators that then commit you to the law of non-contradiction, which demonstrates the truth of the law of non-contradiction.
Yes. So I agree that you have to presuppose the laws of logic. I'm with you. Are we in agreement on that point?
Yeah, what that does, though, is prove it, right? It's like a transcendental proof of the laws of logic.
Right. Yes. I think that we're in agreement on that.
Okay, sure. So then it seems like under the atheist worldview, you could prove that logic exists.
Sorry, I'm just taking a minute to think.
That's okay. Yeah, take your time.
Okay. I mean, I will concede that for, I guess, the sake of me not having what I would consider to be an adequate response.
That's totally fine. Yeah.
So I guess another question or maybe piece that's kind of adjacent, I would argue, to the laws of logic would be things such as morality.
Sure.
So would you say that in the same way that the laws of logic are immaterial and universally binding, that morality is similarly immaterial and universally binding?
I don't know if I'd say that it's immaterial, but I would say that it's universally binding. I think that there are like certain objective moral oughts because there are certain reasons for action that everybody has. So, for example, you know, everybody is striving towards a life in which they are successful. But, you know, this sort of life is going to be the sort of life that you can rationally approve of. But in order to rationally approve of your life, you would need to be virtuous for various reasons that we can get into. Therefore, everybody ought to be virtuous in order to achieve the thing that they're trying to achieve more than anything else.
Okay, so can you maybe parse out for me a little more why everyone ought to be virtuous?
Yes, because everybody has a goal that requires being virtuous. And if you have a goal and then there's something that is necessarily required for it, then we would say that you have a reason to do that thing. That is to say that you ought to do it. So we would say everybody ought to be virtuous.
Okay, so everyone has a goal
Yeah.
that is being virtuous?
Everybody has
Like
a
everyone has
goal,
a
which
goal?
is to live a good life, you know, live a life that is successfully lived. And
Uh-huh.
then in order to achieve the goal of a life that's successfully lived, you would need to be virtuous for reasons that I'm happy to get into.
Sure. So, for example, I hope that we would agree, for example, that Hitler had a goal
Mhm.
that was not virtuous.
Yes, and he did not live a good
So,
life.
right, I would agree. But how can you say that?
Yes, he doesn't live a good life insofar as he doesn't value lives properly, which means that he can't even rationally evaluate his own life because he hasn't developed the proper dispositions to make one a good judge of lives in general. So in order to
Okay.
evaluate that your own life is a good life, you would need to be disposed towards being like an accurate judge of lives and how they're going. And Hitler was just categorically not that, insofar as he failed to properly value other lives. He failed to properly treat like cases alike. There's nothing that makes him ontologically different than the Jewish people he tortured. And
Mhm.
that fact means that he is not a good judge of lives, which means that he can't judge his own life in a way that could possibly have justification, which means that, you know, he can't have a good life because he can't even know his life. He can only know like delusions of his life.
Okay, so he must value. Are you saying he must value human life in order to um, evaluate his own life? Is that what you're claiming?
That's certainly going to be a part of it. My claim is more so that you need to be a fair judge of lives in order to be a fair judge of your own life. And Hitler was not a fair judge of lives in general, so he could not be justified in any judgment that he makes about himself.
Sure. So how can we then, again, under the atheist worldview, how can we say who is and is not a good judge of life?
People who treat like cases alike.
Okay, that's okay. So that's interesting.
Yep.
So, like cases alike, can you maybe parse that out for me a little more?
Sure. So I think like the Hitler example is a great example. There's nothing that makes him different, nothing that makes him better, nothing that makes him like more special than all the Jewish people that he tortured. So, you know, he doesn't want to be tortured. If you tortured him, you'd think, wow, that's like really wrong. But because he doesn't fairly evaluate who deserves what, he didn't like fairly evaluate what the Jewish people deserve, and he didn't fairly evaluate what he himself deserves. He doesn't treat like cases alike. He makes unfair evaluations, which means that he just lacks the ability to evaluate his own life because he lacks the ability to fairly evaluate lives in general.
Okay. That's very interesting.
Yeah, that commits him
would
to the
you-
virtue of justice, by the way, is like the virtue that's there, you know, treating like cases alike, giving people what they deserve.
Mhm. And that's something that is objective.
Yes, everybody has a
That is an
reason to treat like cases alike, which means everybody has a reason to develop a disposition towards justice.
Okay, so he ought treat like cases alike. Is what you're
Yes,
saying.
in order to live a good life. Yeah,
According to who?
according to himself. There'd be a contradiction in his own worldview if he disagreed with that. Everybody
That
ought
he must.
treat like cases alike, because otherwise you aren't a fair evaluator of lives, which means that you wouldn't even be able to live a good life yourself because you can't even evaluate your own life or how it's going.
So I think I would agree on the point that if we do not treat like cases alike, we're not going to be able to fairly evaluate even our own lives. I think where I'm struggling is I think I'm struggling with the ought behind it. Like
Yeah.
when you say ought, there's this idea that there's a foundational moral truth behind that is true regardless of what other people think.
Yep.
And I'm struggling with the idea that this ought is based on the person themselves.
hmm
I don't really understand how an absolute ought can come from a non-absolute person.
So the way that I'm deriving oughts for this ethical system is I'm pointing to. Sorry, I should back up. So
Mhm.
the way that oughts in general are derived is based on evaluation of practical rationality. You have a certain set of goals, and then there's like certain actions that you can take in order to achieve those goals. And it's a question of matching the correct action to those goals. We would say that, for example, if you have the goal of graduating college, and in order to graduate college, you need to go to your classes. There's no way to graduate if you don't go to your classes because, I don't know,
Mhm.
let's say the teacher will fail you in all of them. At that
Mhm.
point, you have a reason to go to all of your classes, and all ought is saying is that you have a reason to do a specific thing, if that makes any sense. So we have,
Sure.
if there's a goal and there's some sort of like necessary means to achieve that goal, then you ought do that thing. So everybody has this goal of living a successful life. This successful life is going to be one, if it's a rational goal, then a successful life is going to be the sort of life that you can rationally evaluate as going well. But if you
Mhm.
can't even evaluate your own life, then you can't rationally evaluate it as going well. So
Mhm.
everybody is trying to live a successful life, which requires being able to evaluate your own life. So then everybody ought evaluate their own life. But then further, in order to evaluate your own life, you would need to be a fair evaluator of lives. Otherwise, all your judgments are unjustified. You're delusional. You could know
Mhm.
like a delusion about your life, but you can't really know like your own life in any sort of like justified way. Um,
Mhm.
which means that everybody ought treat like cases alike. They ought develop a disposition towards that.
Okay. So is the ought a moral ought then, or is
Yeah,
it just a rational ought?
I think that these things are the same.
You think that they're the same.
Yeah, I think that in order to say that somebody ought do something, there needs to be a reason in their own worldview to do that thing. Which means I actually think that Christian ethics really struggles in this regard, because I think that in order to have universal ethics, ethics that are universally binding, there needs to be universal reasons for action. Everybody must have a reason to do the thing. And I think that in order for there to be some sort of universal ought to listen to what God says, everybody would need like a reason to listen to what God says. But if you don't care what God says, it's not really clear what reason you would have.
So okay. Can you repeat that last sentence one more
Yeah,
time?
if you have universally binding ethics, then everybody has a reason to follow it. But it seems like a person who doesn't care what God says. They say, I simply do not care. I'm not going to listen to you. Um, Somebody
Mhm.
like Satan, for example,
Mhm.
you know, it doesn't seem like Satan has a reason to do what God tells him to do.
Mhm. Sure, but I guess in the Christian theistic worldview, we have a lawgiver, right? We have someone who we're basing our ought off of. Whereas I'm struggling to understand how, if you apply the same logic to the atheist worldview, well, clearly Hitler didn't care like whether or not he ought to have done something or not. So I guess I'm just trying to understand how that makes it how
Yeah.
you don't run into the same contradiction.
Yep. Because I would argue that everybody is striving to live a successful life. That if you can take like any action that you're taking like rationally and intentionally, you're taking a specific action in order to achieve like some specific goal. And you can kind of zoom out the picture. You can say, okay, I'm walking to the gym so that I can work out, so that I can be healthy, so that I can live long, or, you know, get into like a relationship so that I can be, you know, broadly speaking, like happy throughout my life and I can live like a long life. But in each step of like the why, you get broader in terms of the scope and how it affects like your life overall. So we went from like
Yes.
walking to the gym to like health to like happiness. So the ultimate thing that's at the top of this must be something that encompasses the entire life. You're trying to succeed with respect to the entire life, which means that everybody's ultimate goal is to live a successful life, which is going to, if it's, you know, a rational goal, is going to be a life that you yourself can rationally evaluate and rationally approve of. So the reason why my argument gets around this is because I argue that everybody has this goal. Whereas I think that if you don't have the goal to listen to God, then you simply wouldn't have a reason to.
So your argument is that everyone has the goal of living a successful life.
Yeah.
And how would you define successful?
I think that we can leave it like relatively nebulous, but it just needs to be something that you yourself could rationally approve of. So, and I agree, like from person to person, this is going to be different, which is why the goal is not the objective thing. The objective thing is the means to achieve that goal. Everybody has a reason to take the means to achieve the goal, which is why it's a universal ethic, is because there's these universal reasons to be virtuous, despite the fact that each person's idea of like a successful life is going to differ from person to person. But that's kind of the nature of the argument, is that rationally, you can live any life you want as long as it's virtuous. But if it's not virtuous, then it's no longer rational.
Okay. And how would you define virtuous?
I'd probably cash it out as like the 4 major virtues. So like kind of like the cop-out answer is that a virtue is like a disposition to do the right thing for the right reason, towards the right goals, with the right feeling, etc. And then the way that we would characterize this is going to be, I could probably break it up into like the 4 classic virtues. Courage is going to be, you know, you experience like the right amount of fear and you weigh like risks correctly in like the things that you value. Wisdom is going to be understanding the value of everything. Justice is going to be treating like cases alike. And then temperance, it's been so long since I've defended virtue ethics. Temperance is hard to define, but it's like you don't take too much pleasure. Like you take like the right amount of enjoyment out of that's the definition.
Sure.
You take the right amount of enjoyment in things.
Okay. And so that in your view is virtuous, and that's success, and so that's what everyone is striving towards.
Yep. If you lack even one of those, then there's going to be things to be rationally desired in your life.
Okay, so it's not necessarily that everyone is actually striving towards that. It's that they rationally should be.
It's that there's a contradiction in your view if you're not striving towards something that would require virtue.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just taking some notes.
That's okay.
I'm just
no worries.
Curious to dig into these things further.
Yeah, this is like a very like Aristotelian, like eudaimoniast model of ethics. If you're interested in looking into it further.
Yeah. Wait. Sorry. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah.
Aristotelian what now?
This is like Aristotle's ethics, and of course it's been like built on and expanded and argued for by lots of thinkers that came after him. But the originator of, well, I don't know if I'd say that Aristotle's the originator, but yeah, there's like a bit more nuance. Aristotle isn't like the first virtue ethicist, but the specific model that I'm defending is definitely, there's like a direct line from Aristotle to the ethics that I hold to.
Okay, that makes sense. And this is called virtue ethics, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want like a good, it's not like per se like short, but if you want like a really good resource on this, Stanford has like an internet resource called the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. And it's fantastic for like introductory philosophy texts, or like introductory philosophy articles. So there's this great article on Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy for virtue ethics that will cover different types. And the one that I defend is this like section 2.1, which is eudaemonist virtue ethics. And it has more resources if you want to read even more.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'll definitely look into that. And so I think, as I've been kind of taking notes, I'm curious. So I think I understand kind of these abstract principles that you're laying out. I'm curious, in your worldview, you say justice is treating like cases alike, right? So would you then apply that, or let me see how I want to word this. Would you say that you would consistently apply that throughout your own life?
Are you asking me like me as Ian, do I live up to the principle of treating like cases alike?
Or would you at least say that you strive to?
I strive to, yeah.
Okay.
And the claim that I'm making here is that I should. Everyone should.
Yes, you should. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you. So would you say that you are pro-choice?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you explain how that fits within your definition of justice?
Yeah, the reason why this fits within my definition of justice is because I think that the thing that I value is going to be something like consciousness. And as an extension of that, because I value consciousness, I also value the things that are required for consciousness, and I value autonomy. So I think that a fetus has some value, but I think that it's substantially less valuable than like a conscious fetus. So I think like a conscious fetus has substantial moral value, and I don't think that there should be like, I don't think anything that results in like the death of a conscious fetus would be permissible. But you know, I mean, at the stage where that would be like, we're talking like 6 months into pregnancy, like at that point, basically you just get like a C-section or something, if you like need the pregnancy to end. So
your argument would then be that abortion after 6 months is not okay?
If by abortion you mean like killing like the conscious fetus, then I'm not okay with that. But if by like abortion you mean just like termination of pregnancy, well, I think that you can terminate the pregnancy in ways that don't kill the conscious being.
Yes.
So that's fine.
Okay. That is interesting. I don't know that I've heard that argument before. So you said that the unconscious fetus has, in your mind, some value.
Yeah.
So how do you assign value to this fetus, and how would you quantify that?
I don't know if I'd be able to like quantify for you like the value. I think that virtue ethics commits you to something called like ethical particularism, which just holds that there's like lots of things that you ought value, and then it's about weighing them and creating acting upon the correct decisions with respect to this like variety of values. I think a really good analogy here is chess. If you've ever played chess, there is like an objectively best move to make in each situation, but it's going to be based on like all of the particulars that are there on the board. There's just like a lot of relevant features when you're making a chess move, like the position of their king, the position of the queen, pawn structure. There's so many relevant factors to consider and weigh, and you need to take all of it into account. Similarly, I think that and most interesting moral scenarios, there's like a lot of things that you should be valuing, and then these are going to weigh on the correct decision in various ways. In the same way, the position of the queen might favor one move, and then the position of like the rook and the bishop might favor like a separate move. I think that certain values are going to favor specific actions, and it's a question of, in the same way, like you would evaluate the chessboard and then pick the best chess move that you can, and if you have a better understanding of chess, you're going to make better moves. If you have a better understanding of value, you're going to make more ethical decisions, if that makes any sense. So I think that I think that like an unconscious fetus has some value. I just think that it's probably outweighed by the value of, for example, like bodily autonomy.
Okay. So in the chess analogy, though, in order to make the objectively correct move, there also has to be an objective value to each piece, right? That you like, whether you actually know it or not, there's some mathematically quantifiable value to each piece, right? That would solve this mathematical formula that produces the best move. But you're saying that you don't necessarily have that for
no, I do
human
think that
being.
I do think that there are like objective values.
There are objective values to human beings in different stages of gestation.
Yes. Yeah.
But you
like,
said you
for
can't
example,
quantify that.
Well, yeah, in the same way, like I can't tell you, like I can't quantify. I might not be able to quantify for you how much value this chess move is going to produce, even though I could explain to you like why it's the right chess move. Similarly, there could be like an objective value that corresponds to the value of an unconscious fetus, the value of a conscious fetus, the value of bodily autonomy, the value of bodily integrity.
Right. So it's more of a rank order than
it's just that there's like lots of so a good way to evaluate it is by creating like analogies, which is why if you look to the field of applied ethics, that's exactly what they do. They pit values against each other by finding other scenarios that are analogous to the scenario in question.
Yes, I understand that concept. Okay, so would you then apply the same level of value, or would you value, say, someone who is brain dead? Would you say that they have less value than someone who's not brain dead?
And they're not coming back, they're just brain dead?
Well, I mean, I think kind of, you don't know, right? Like that's part of.
Oh, well, then I wouldn't know whether to value
equation.
them. I mean, yeah, I think so. There's like a couple of things that I'd probably point out that's like disanalogous is that I think specifically one thing that I value is people's desires for themselves. And that's something that I value even after somebody's dead, is like, okay, during their life, what did they value? What did they want? Were these values and desires virtuous? Were they not virtuous? And then from there, I'm going to respond to their values and desires. If somebody desires to be cremated, I would think that it's probably wrong to like get them chummed and then like feed them to sharks. That's it doesn't seem to be properly valuing this person's desires. But I mean, for somebody who's brain dead, if I know that they're brain dead, then I'm going to think that there's value. Like you should still have like some value for like the human form. You should have some value for the things that they desired, assuming that all of that is virtuous.
Yeah.
But,
okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm reading the comments and I'm getting flamed because apparently if you're brain dead, you cannot indeed come back. So I'll change it to be you are in a coma.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's an indefinite period of time that you will be in this coma.
An indefinite period of time?
Meaning you may or may not come out of it.
Oh, okay. Wait. I think that in order to give you like the true moral analysis, I would need to know which one. If I didn't know whether this, I guess I have zero indication as to whether this person is going to come out of this coma.
Well, right. I mean, that's a real life thing that happens, right? People go into comas and we don't exactly know when they're going to wake up.
I thought typically like the doctor would tell you, there's like this likelihood that the person will wake up. There's this likelihood that they won't. You know, it's like probable,
Sure,
improbable.
yeah. I mean, yeah, but I'm saying like you can't know for certain when or if, right?
Yep, I agree with
And
that.
does that person have consciousness?
If they're in a coma, no. But they have the
Okay,
structures
so
for it,
then
which are things that I value. They have life, which is a thing that I value. There's like a good number of things that I would still value about them, despite the fact that they don't have consciousness. Because I
so
value
you say
not
they
just
have this.
consciousness, but also the things that are necessary for it.
So when you say they have the structures for consciousness, do you mean they have a brain?
They have
Or
like
like
the
what would you
neurological
define?
structures for it. Like they have like the neural
Uh-huh.
paths to deploy consciousness.
Okay. And why is that where you draw the line at that? That's where like, okay, human life is valuable when they have those structures. How do you draw that line?
Well, I think human life is valuable irregardless, but I think it's more valuable when you have those structures. I think that there's like value to human life, even the sort of human life that doesn't have those structures. You know, like let's say somebody was born without a brain, and it's, you know, something has gone like horribly wrong here. I wouldn't think that that's okay to like, I don't know, like I don't think that you could like fucking like toss I don't think that you could toss like that corpse into the trash can through
Mm-hmm.
like the goddamn like basketball hoop. Like I think that you need to show like human life proper respect. But
Uh-huh.
you know,
But what is that
I
what
think
is that based
that thing
on?
that I described is like vastly less valuable than like a conscious human baby. Like there's some value there, but it's like minuscule compared to the sort of value
Uh-huh.
that I'd give to like a conscious person.
Right. But I'm asking why. Like
Yeah.
like I understand you're stating like, okay,
It's because life is
varying levels
necessary
of
for
consciousness.
consciousness.
It's because life is necessary for
Yep.
consciousness.
I value consciousness. I value agency, and these things are necessary for it.
Okay, so you're not so at the core of it, you don't actually value life. You value consciousness. Is that what you're saying?
I think that I think that you need to value life in order to properly value yourself, because you are alive.
Mm-hmm.
So there must be something valuable about life in order to fully value yourself.
Yes, but I guess I just go back to like I guess I'm maybe not fully understanding the argument, but it just to me I'm still not feeling an adequate explanation of okay. So yes, you need to value life in order to value yourself.
Mhm.
Sure, I'm with you on that. That's fine. I'm trying to understand when it comes to again these edge cases that we've been discussing. How can you then assign some spectrum of value and say, okay, this because this person has this level of consciousness, they have this level of value versus this person's fully conscious, so they get the full value of a human life. And
Mhm.
I mean, I guess I don't even we can talk about this. I don't even know what that necessarily means in your worldview. The full value of a human life is that
Yeah,
how do
like
we
I
even
think that like the
quantify
peak
that?
is
But
like I would probably say like the peak is like, you know, like the conscious human person. It's probably like the peak of value. And
mhm.
then there's still going to be
Okay.
value to like the unconscious human person, but probably a bit less. And then, you know, as you keep on taking traits away, you know, the one who is brain dead, you know, less value. The one that doesn't even have a brain, less value.
Mm-hmm.
Like a single cell, less value.
Okay. So why? Why is that the line that you or why is that the
Yep.
criterion that you're using
Yeah,
to assign
because
value?
as you go up in the ladder, there are more things that are necessary for consciousness. I value consciousness, so I value the things that are necessary for
Mm-hmm.
consciousness. So I'm going to assign more
Yep.
value when there are more things that are necessary for consciousness, or even like more important things for consciousness, as opposed to less
Mm-hmm.
of those.
Okay. Yeah. That okay. I think I'm understanding. I apologize if you're
That's
having to
okay.
repeat yourself
No,
quite a
that's
few
no
times.
problem. I'm happy to explain this. I love talking about ethics.
Yeah, no, and I think it's good that we are having the conversation.
Mhm.
I think unfortunately conversations like these are more and more rare. So I think it's good. But okay, I'm understanding your argument, and it sounds like kind of the linchpin in all of this is is the statement that you made that you said, I value consciousness, right?
Yep.
Why do you value consciousness?
Yeah, because in virtue of valuing anything at all, you would need to deem yourself to be valuable. In order for me to be something that confers value on other things, I would need to be valuable because the value that these things that I'm pursuing has comes from the fact that I value them, which means that necessarily, all things that value must themselves be valuable. And there's nothing that separates me from these other valuers. There's no reason why I'm better than them, which means that, I must deem all valuers to have value.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And consciousness, of course, is required for that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand. I think according to your own worldview, you're being consistent, and I appreciate that, and I can understand where you're coming from. I think I would just object to the idea that we as human beings can be objective arbiters of value, and I would say that it's extremely problematic in the fact that, like, you say there's less value to an unborn human life that doesn't have consciousness versus one that does. To me, it's problematic. I mean, I guess obviously from a Christian theistic worldview, it's very problematic. But I would also say that it just doesn't necessarily account for reality, and especially the the number of people who have abortions, even early term abortions, and then feel extreme sorrow and grief over that human life. I think that we have to account for that in some way or another, and to say that, well, this is an inferior human being because it's not conscious. Like, I just don't know that that actually plays out in how people perceive value in human life.
There's kind of like the obvious question that you've probably been asked this many times before, but
Sure.
Let's say that you're in an IVF clinic, it's burning to the ground. On one table, you have 4 frozen human embryos in like a petri dish. And then on the other end, you have like a crying, screaming human baby. Which one are you saving? You can only save one.
I mean, I think that that's a bit of a gotcha question. And I think it's also just kind of an unrealistic scenario to begin with. And I guess to answer your question, that's not something I've been asked before.
Oh, sure. It's pretty common in abortion debates. If you do more abortion debates, you'll definitely get asked it. But I think that this like demonstrates my point. It's not that the embryos have zero value. It's just that they're way less valuable than like the baby.
Yeah, so I would disagree. I would say that all human life from fertilization to point of natural death has infinite value. And obviously that's based on the Christian theistic worldview that all people are created in the image of God, that they're created intentionally, that they're not just products of time and chance and matter, but that they are actually created intentionally from a creator who's given them infinite worth and value. So from my worldview, I would not agree.
Yeah, it just kind of does commit you. And I'm not trying to like humiliate you or anything like that. You seem like a totally nice guy, but you do seem to be committed based on what you've said to the view that the right thing to do is to save like the frozen embryos rather than the baby.
I suppose potentially, but I guess I think that you can appeal to emotion and say that, well, that's obviously not right, but I think that doesn't necessarily make it logically inconsistent.
So maybe this would be like a good piece of evidence against the existence of God, is that you would think that our moral intuitions would better line up with moral reality on your view then. if your view is the correct view, you'd think that God would give us the moral intuitions to know that actually, like to make it like very intuitive, that the 4 embryos, like saving the 4 embryos is the right choice, when that's just not the case at all. I think basically everybody has the intuition. And in fact, I bet you probably have that intuition too. But like, I understand, you're committed to the view. Sometimes there are like unintuitive moral bullet bites, but
So you think that for a worldview to be true, it should be intuitive, or at least like when making ethical
it's certainly,
decisions, it should be
I don't think
intuitive.
that's strictly necessary, but I think it's certainly nice.
Okay. Would you say that like your worldview provides morally intuitive
I think so.
ethical solutions to problems?
I think so.
Okay.
I struggle to see, like, there are probably some bullet bites, but I think that probably like the places where I could think that there are like bullet bites from my view are going to be on topics where I think that our intuitions are going to be like woefully, I don't know, like I have an explanation for why we intuit that you shouldn't do these things.
Right. But I guess to go back to what the example that I gave about women who do have abortions and who are very regretful, right? To me, that seems to kind of counter that, right? Because if it's just a morally lesser being, then like why should we care whether or not we just discard it or not?
It still has like some value, right? Like I think that you should give an embryo its due. Like you should give it the respect that it deserves. But it just so happens to be that the amount that you should be valuing the embryo is like vastly less than the value you should be placing on something like bodily autonomy.
Interesting. Okay, so you would say the embryo has less value than the value assigned to bodily autonomy?
If it's not conscious, then yeah, like trivially, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that I would just fundamentally disagree, and I would say that that's again going back to like this argument of moral, if something morally intuitive or not. I would say that is not morally intuitive, because again we go back to, well, if it's this intuitive moral equation of, well, my bodily autonomy is greater than the value of this baby, then why should I feel any grief over killing it?
Well, because you probably want to still think that it has some value. You still assign some value to things like future consciousness, and you still assign some values to things like human life. So it makes sense that you assign like some grief even, that's like a totally appropriate emotion. But it's just that the value that you assign to future consciousness and the value that you assign to human life gets like vastly outweighed by something like bodily autonomy.
But if it gets vastly outweighed by those things, then why grieve? Or
because it still has value.
Why even regret?
Because it still has value.
But you said it has less value than bodily autonomy.
Yeah, let's say that you and I were, well, okay, yeah. Let's say that I was alone in the woods with my kids and my dog, and we get lost. We take a wrong turn. We can't find our way out of the woods, and it becomes clear that either I kill and eat my dog or we starve to death. I think the right thing to do there is probably to kill and eat the dog. But I think you should feel really bad about it. I think that you have a moral obligation even to feel awful about the thing that you have to do. And I think that if you didn't feel bad and you didn't feel like lots of regret about that you would have done the wrong thing. I think that you can feel regret even when you do the right thing.
So I agree that you can feel regret even when you do the right thing. I think I would just, if we take this analogy that you've postulated, when you regret something you wish you had done otherwise, would you agree or disagree? Because I think that's the difference between grief and regret, right? Or I mean, one of the differences between grief and regret. Grief is, hey, this is sad, but If I had to do it again, I'd do it
Sure,
again.
yeah. Okay,
Versus regret
that
is
seems true by definition. Then maybe my
okay.
example, I mean, okay, if somebody like truly regrets getting an abortion, I don't know, like I think that's too bad then. But lots of people don't regret getting an abortion.
Sure.
And I
But
think
so
that
you
we
think
should
it's
allow people to, express their autonomy on the basis of, their ability to evaluate properly what's going to happen for them as an individual.
Mhm. Right. So you would agree then that you wouldn't, in your analogy, you would not regret killing your dog to save your
Sure,
children.
yeah. But you'd feel like very remorseful of it.
Sure.
So I guess the question then
Right.
becomes like how many people feel regret about their abortion?
Yeah. And I would say that there are lots of people who do. I mean, I'm obviously part of a church, and we have a ministry that's just devoted to people who've had abortions and who are regretting that decision,
Do we have like
obviously, and are
stats or
seeking
something?
support. I don't have any stats. I don't know that. I think it would be impossible to fairly gather and survey statistics in order to. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm looking at like stats right now from what is this? UCSF, the Turnaway study that finds that the overwhelming majority of women did not feel regret 5 years after their abortion, with 84% reporting positive or neutral emotions. Apparently, the percent that does not regret the abortion is like 99%. That's apparently what the study is saying. So it seems like the
Sure,
vast
and the study
majority
may
of
say
people
that.
don't regret it.
So it's interesting that you bring this up. So my background is actually in the world of statistics, and I would be interested to see this study and see their survey methodology. I don't know how much weight I would necessarily place on such a survey without looking at it, I suppose.
Sure.
Only because I feel like it'd be incredibly, when we say all people or all women who've had abortions, right? So are we talking
Well, just
about
like
the
the ones
US? Are
in
we
the
talking about
survey, of
worldwide?
course.
Okay, so that's the population of people are the ones in the survey.
You don't have if you have a stats background, you don't have a problem with that, surely.
No, well, so there's a difference between a sample and a population, though.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So if
presumably
we're
you
saying the
can
population,
yeah, go for it. Sorry.
well, yeah, you can make inferences about a population from a sample, absolutely. But my argument would have to be then that what is our target population, and is the sample a randomized and representative sample of the population?
We could look into it. Let's see. Is there like a PDF of this, or otherwise is this just like this is like the summary? I wonder. It's called the Turnaway study.
Let's see.
Boop. Sample.
Turnaway study.
I bet that's probably just a summary. Abortion. The Turnaway study. UCSF PDF maybe. Gosh, why can't I find the original study? Or not like the original study, but like the PDF for it. I wish I wish it was just here on the website.
Yeah, it would be great. It's probably behind a paywall somewhere. But I guess anyway, so in the case that, and I think you would agree with me, that we do have people who do actually regret such a thing as an abortion.
Sure. I mean, we have people who regret like knee surgery. I don't think that makes it like wrong to get knee surgery.
So would you say that those people, but okay, do you think that a knee surgery is a moral equivalent to an abortion?
No, because insofar as I think that the fetus has like some value, but it gets like vastly outweighed. I'd say that they're comparable, though not like exactly the same. I think that, you'd give like a speck more weight to regret for abortion than for regret for knee surgery, but I think they're like basically comparable.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So I would just say that just to me, and I mean, you can certainly disagree with this, but to me, that just does not comport with reality. to say that a knee surgery is only a speck less morally significant than an abortion. And I think that most
But
people would
why?
probably agree with me on that point. Why?
Yeah.
Why is a knee surgery different than abortion? Well, so according to the
Yeah, I mean, I
Christian
think that like
worldview,
obviously I think that the fetus has like some value, but I think that
sure.
if you know, if you get the abortion and then you regret it, I think that that's too bad. I think that that's like really sad even. Um
Hmm.
and the reason why I think that that's like sadder than like, you know, regret about like the knee surgery is because, you know, you have like a yearning for what could have been, you know, you value the things like their potential future existence, you value things like human life in general. Um, but
Hmm.
I just don't think that the difference there would be enough for me to think that the abortion, even an abortion that you regret, is so bad that we should like restrict a person's bodily autonomy, especially when 99% of the people that get abortions don't feel any regret about it.
Sure, right. And so I think again that's, and you asked me originally, well, why would I say that there is more moral weight to an abortion than a knee surgery? So if I could respond to that
Oh, well,
quickly, I would say that under
I
the
agree that there is more weight. I just don't know why it would be like way, way, way more.
yeah. Let me clarify. So according to the Christian worldview, we're created in the image of God, right? And because we're created in the image of God, we have not just a spectrum of value, but we have infinite value. And so that's the reason why in the Christian worldview, we would say that abortion is much, 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 much infinitely more morally significant than a knee replacement.
No, I understand that. I understand that's why it would be true in your view. I just have no idea why that would have any like force in my view.
Right, and it wouldn't. And I think that's kind of the point of the conversation that we're having right now, is it's showing that, you know, we both have different worldviews. They both make certain presuppositions about reality, epistemology, et cetera,
Sure.
anthropology. And so under your presuppositions, you would say that killing a child in the womb is only slightly more morally significant than a knee surgery. And you would be logically consistent in saying that. Under my worldview, I would say that there is an infinitely greater moral weight to an abortion than a knee surgery. And I would also be logically consistent in my application of my worldview in saying that. And so would you agree with me in
at
both
what
of
level
those
do you think
cases?
do you think each organism is made in the image of God?
What do you mean each organism?
So, okay, let's say that you add like a single cell. Do you think that this like single cell is made in the image of God?
Is the single cell a human
Yeah,
cell?
it's a single human cell. Is that made in the image of God?
Like, is that the entirety of the person, or is it like a skin cell on my skin right now?
No, let's say it's like the embryo, or it's like I forget what the name for the first cell in pregnancy is. Is it the zygote?
That
One of
sounds right.
them.
Is it yeah.
Yeah, it's the zygote, yeah.
Are you saying, is that made in the image of God?
Yeah, is the zygote made in the image
Of course,
of God?
according to the Christian theistic worldview, of course it is.
Okay, sure. So do you think that it's like the organism, like the unique life form that is distinct from its environment? Do you think that being made in the image of God is the sort of thing that applies to like an organism?
Assuming that by organism you mean human being.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
I do, yeah.
Okay.
So I think that this runs into the problem that if the thing that you're saying has value is the organism, then I think that you run into the problem of conjoined twins, that you can have two conjoined twins that are one organism. So you would have to say that it's just the one organism that's made in the image of God, unless what you want to say is that it's like the persons that are made in the image of, maybe, okay, I don't know. I don't want to blindside you. Maybe you do want to say it's like the persons, but to me, like the easy way to determine that is to say, well, it's two minds, so it's two persons.
Right. So I would argue that people, again, and this is, I'm not expecting that you would accept this under your worldview, but at least to explain mine, I would say that human beings are what we would call middle creatures. So under the Christian theistic worldview, we would have all of creation are created beings, and then we would have spiritual beings such as angels, and human beings are what we would call middle creatures, in that we are both physical and spiritual. So when you talk about conjoined twins, like, yes, they might be, I suppose, one organism in that all of their cells are connected, but they are not one person because they're two separate spiritual people
What
or
would you say
spiritual
makes
beings.
them two persons?
Well, they have two souls, of course.
They have two souls. So you
Mhm.
think God imbues...
Each person has their own, of course.
Okay, wait. What's the this is gonna draw on like medical terminology. I wonder if like the one. I wonder if the debate doctor is here. But I forget what it's called. But like specifically when conjoined twins are forming, there's like a specific split, and I forget what the specific split is called. Before the split, do you think that there's like one soul, or do you think that there's like two souls?
What do you mean by the split? Like, I guess I'm trying to understand, like,
My
you mean that there's like,
understanding of conjoined twins is that you have like the initial zygote, and then there's like a split where it's destined to become like two minds as opposed to like one mind, where it's like destined at that point, or it's like destined, determined to become conjoined twins as opposed to like the single cell, which otherwise wouldn't have.
so from one cell, you're saying comes two separate human beings, or I guess from one cell comes both conjoined twins. And
Yeah.
so you're asking, okay.
Do you think that it has like two souls from like the stage of like single cell?
I mean, is that true? Can we verify if that's true or not? I'd be very interested to know.
It's like a very documented process, like the forming of conjoined twins. Yeah.
So because I thought you were saying that you weren't sure if they did or not.
No, my understanding. So I don't know if this is true for all of them, because there's like lots of different types of conjoined twins. But my understanding is that there is a specific type of conjoined twin wherein what happens is that there's like something goes awry with cell division.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, identical twins that don't fully separate. That's what I'm thinking of. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Chat has me for that. Yeah.
Identical twins that don't fully separate. Oh, okay. I'm seeing this now. The fission theory. Interesting.
Yeah. Do you think that when it's just like a
fertilized
single
egg being
zygote,
split.
do you think that this like single zygote has one soul or two?
I think that's a very fair question. And I feel like my argument would be that the Bible speaks very clearly that before we are even conceived, God knows us. And so when exactly the souls are created and how that applies to at what point like the cells become two individuals, I would say not feel super equipped to answer that.
That's okay.
But I would also again just say that according to the Christian theistic worldview, like God knows us even before we're conceived, and so regardless of at what point in that regardless at what point in our perception of time, like that happens, like it doesn't change the fact that there's still two distinct people.
So somebody in chat had something for me to look up too, which definitely raises like even more questions. So I think that you may run into a dilemma. If you're saying that it's going to be two souls, well, there's this other medical thing called fetus in fetu, which is there's one fetus will develop inside of the other, and is like parasitic off of the other, do you think and I think, I'm not sure if there's like a documented case of them, of like the parasitic one like living, but like would you say that that's one soul or two, or would you, it's okay if you don't know. I like, it's, you know, it's like a tough question, but
So it's two distinct, but you're saying it's two zygotes.
it's 2
I'm trying to
distinct
understand that.
fetuses, but one of them is just inside of the other.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, and yeah, I would definitely say I'm not necessarily equipped to answer the question, but I guess on initial analysis, I would say that yes, there are two distinct people, which would obviously include two distinct souls.
Sure.
In that case.
Yeah. Oh, shoot! Look at the time. I probably have to get going. I have a date with my girlfriend, but I really appreciate the conversation. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah, you as well. I really appreciate you being so open to discussion, and yeah, maybe we can chat again sometime. I'll have to look into some of the resources that you pointed me to. So.
Yep. Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate you coming on up. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen. Wait, sorry, Eddie. I know. I see like a lot of people there. Also, gosh, Ryan Beard, I see you there. Sorry. If I had more time, I would stay, but alas, I don't. Let me read some supers, and then I gotta go. Slightly agnostic. Thanks so much for the super chat. A fellow kidney stoner. I don't have kidney stones, but maybe one day I'll be amongst your ranks. Doc told me to cut sugar and salt, so no longer a Morton salt devotee, but hail the renal god. I have 16 of the little dogs. Dude. The fuck? You have 16? Maybe I'm misreading. You have 16 kidney stones? That's like diabolical. A Percival Yum Yums. Thanks so much for the super chat. Have a drink on me. I appreciate that. Thank you. Skeptical Dilettante. Thanks so much for the super chat. Either toast or non-toast. Non-toast cannot account for the laws of logic. Therefore, toast can account for the laws of logic. True. Kieran Dave, thanks so much for the super chat. So stats background rejects studies based on methodological rigor, but their opinion about women's feelings as a whole is just doctrine. Okay. Yeah, I did think that was like quite weird, you know, unless we have like some reason to think that it's like a bullshit study. Kane, thanks so much for the super chat. God cares about babies except when it floods. That's a good point. El Chencio, thanks so much for the super chat. You look like a goat debater. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Do we have anything else? Oh, yeah. Vintage Gaming, thanks so much for the super chat. Sauce got nailed by 2 Roman dudes. Sauce? G-Sauce. God? Okay. True. Thanks so much for the bits and the jewels on Twitch. I appreciate it. Thank you so much to the top gifters. Poopman Jones, thank you so much. Lou, thank you so much. Brielle, thank you so much. If you want to get started with philosophy, but you don't know where to start, you should start with Michael Humer's Knowledge, Reality, and Value. We're doing a reading group in the book club. This week, we're reading the chapter on utilitarianism, which is chapter 14. I would love to see all of you there. It's at 8 p.m. EST. It's going to be so much fun. You should all be there, 8 p.m. EST, discord.gg/allegedly Ian. You don't need to read any of the chapters. It's a great time. I'll see you all there. All right, other than that, I love all of you. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll see you all later.